Got a new mic. This is enormous.
That's fancy.
I don't know how I feel about this. All right, thank you. All right, can everyone hear me?
Very much so.
Woo! Okay, I got a new
louder.
mic. I'm loud now.
Those are louder, yeah.
All right. Good evening. I call to order the meeting of the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School Committee at 7 o'clock on Thursday, April 25th, 2024. And to begin the meeting, I'd like to invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So the first order of business this evening is, as you know, since we last met, we had an election, and our regional agreement says that after an election, in this meeting, we will tabulate the votes and make an announcement regarding them. Because our elections are now run slightly differently and the votes have been tabulated, we're not going to count them, but I am going to read the official results. I did compare. You'll see that there's an exhibit from both Hamilton and Wenham, and as our town clerks have done, and I did, they match. So we don't need to read them separately because they are identical. They did their jobs. Okay. So as you know, we had one seat opened to fill the remainder of a 2-year term. Trenton Honda received 540 votes from Hamilton, 389 votes from Wenham, for a total of 929 votes. The blank votes were 226 from Hamilton, 107 from Wenham, for a total of 333. The write-in votes were 8 from Hamilton, 0 from Wenham, and a total of 8. And then there was a write-in vote specifically for Courtney Ashwood, 9 from Hamilton, 0 from Wenham, and a total of 9. So that means that for the 2-year term, Trent Honda has been elected to the committee. Congratulations. And my understanding is the town clerk has informed me you're properly sworn in and ready to go. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, welcome. Good to see you. Next, we had 2 openings for a 3-year term. Julia Campbell received 531 votes from Hamilton, 402 votes from Wenham, for a total of 933 votes. Jennifer Carr received 530 votes from Hamilton, 390 votes from Wenham, for a total of 924 votes. The blanks were 446 from Hamilton, 193 from Wenham, and 639 for a total. Write-ins from Hamilton were 7, Wenham were 2, for a total of 9, and write-ins specifically for Courtney Ashwood was 48 for Hamilton, 5 from Wenham, and a total of 53. And that means that for the 2 slots, that Julia Campbell and Jennifer Carr have been elected to the 3-year term on the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School Committee. Thanks, welcome. Again, welcome back.
Yes, I am sworn in.
All right, and my understanding is both Julia and Jen have been properly sworn in and are ready to go for this evening. Thank you. All right, any other members have any questions or comments? I will say congratulations on everyone on beating the blanks. All right. Next up on our agenda, we have an opportunity for citizens' comments. Oh, did I skip something?
Oh, never mind. I thought.
Nope, okay.
No, you're right.
Oh, yeah, I sort of introduced the members as we went along.
Yeah.
Good? Yes? No?
Yeah, no, I was actually just more thinking about the student rep before all the, but.
Oh.
Do you want to offer that? We could.
That's because there's a big contingent in the house, so. Yeah, no, I'll just move that we change the agenda just to have this student rep speak before we open the floor to public comment.
Okay.
Just so they can.
All right, I'll just I mean, I think we can just say unless there's an objection, I hear a suggestion that we might ask our student rep, Jake Collins, to give his presentation ahead of citizens' comments. Looks like that seems to work. Jake, does that work? Okay, great. I actually think it'll be nice. I hope the citizens enjoy. It's always good to have our student rep give a presentation.
For news for HWRMS, we have our Spain trip just came back, and also our Taiwan trip. They had a great time, and they would love to do it again, but sadly some of them can't. And we have the DECA National Conference is tomorrow, and that's very exciting. We have a couple Hamilton Wenham people supporting us there. And the Prism concert went very well. We saw a lot of support there. And for sports, we have track has the biggest team they've had in years. And for baseball, they pulled out a 6-3 win against Newburyport. Softball had a tough loss against Newburyport. And the boys lacrosse won their first game of the year, 13-9 against Amesbury. And the girls' game sadly got canceled, but they are playing tonight. And for Miles River Middle School, we have 6th and 7th graders had their ELA MCAS this week, as well as they are having a play on May the 4th. And for the elementary schools, we have a lot of MCAS this week because the 5th graders and 5th, 4th, and 3rd graders all had their MCAS this week, as well as there was a special guest at Winthrop on the April 10th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Jake? All right. Jake, did you say, I just had a quick question about the DECA Nationals. Did you say that we had 2 people?
I'm not sure about the number, but I know we have at least one, but we have some people supporting us there.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. Jake, we always appreciate getting to hear right from the students. It really means a lot that you take the time to come here. You are absolutely welcome to stay. And we also understand that it's possible you may have other things to do. And if you like homework, for example, and if you'd like to depart, you can do that as well. Either way, right? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jake.
All right. Okay. Thank you to all of you. It's always good to hear that from the students. All right, so next up we have citizens' comments. We have an availability to hear comments either in person or on Zoom. Any citizen who's wishing to speak, if you're in the room, I would ask you to approach the podium when it's your turn, and we'll offer 3 minutes. I'm going to ask if someone on the committee would be willing to be the timekeeper.
I'll do it.
David, thank you. David will just give you a little heads up when you have about 30 seconds left. When you approach the podium, I ask that you give your name and address so that we can properly note that for the minutes when we properly document. Please know that citizens' comments are an opportunity for you to be heard. Our job in listening to citizens' comments is to listen. It's an opportunity for us to hear what you have to say. So it's not a back and forth, it's not a dialogue or a debate, it's our opportunity to hear what you have to say. I ask just that you keep your comments to those things that are within the purview of the school committee. And with that, I think we'll get started in the room. It looks like we have maybe a couple of people on Zoom, but maybe we'll start in the room. And I will just say, I'm going to say we'll go about 20 minutes. That goes till 7:30, and then I'll do a little check-in and see where we are at that point. Okay? All right.
Good afternoon. First is up, my name is Nicholas White. I work and live at 153 Woodland Mead. And I do want to appreciate the work of the committee both on Tuesday night and here tonight. So certainly as public servants, I really do appreciate the work and dedication. But in terms of the decision that was made on Tuesday with regard to the mega project that was approved, I just want to reiterate my comments from Tuesday. I feel that the mill rate here in Hamilton is unsustainable and therefore really puts an unfair burden on the community and the residents, and I think it forces many people not to live in this lovely place. I also think that from a open space perspective, getting rid of some of the open space to put this mega operation in place is disingenuous or not consistent with why many of us moved here. And I also reiterate many of the comments on Tuesday regarding the character of small schools, which really is consistent with why many of us moved here. Some of my kids went to the public school here and really benefited from that small environment. So I would just urge the committee to, obviously you're not going to reconsider that, but I did want to say that I will be very much in favor of on the hustings, putting out many supporters to try to turn this down when it comes to vote this fall, because I really do think it really doesn't do this town justice. And I understand a lot of the pressures from a tax perspective, but I really think that it's the wrong thing for this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Tracy, is there anyone on Zoom that wants to speak?
Anyone on Zoom would like to speak? Hold on 1 second.
Just a second, Mr. Musser. We want to make sure we get your mic so everyone can hear you.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Eric.
Hi, good evening. My name is Eric Musser. I live on Naples and Hamilton, and I appreciate the time tonight to speak to you all.
I'm sorry, we still can't hear. I'm not.
Young little kids, all 6 and under, so I'm in the cohorts of families that will be dramatically impacted by the school consolidation project that is being put forth by this committee. I want to say that I am adamantly opposed to this idea, and there's a growing cohort of not just young families, but elderly families, single people, local, just friends and other community members within this committee, or within this community, that are opposed to this project. And there are several reasons as to why we are. It's not just financial. It's not just because we're opposed to more development. It's not because of increased traffic or whatnot. The main idea and the reasoning behind being opposed to this mega school for little children is because it's not what is best for them. That's it. That's the main factor here. A mega school with first graders through fifth graders of over 700 children in one massive school is not what's best for them. Research has shown us this. Studies have shown us this. Other schools that have done this, it's not been successful. It's not the idea that we should be doing here, and it's not going to have a good outcome. That's why all these families that have moved to this little community are so upset, because we're going to lose out on why we moved here. The communities that we've built within the Bucher school system have been fantastic. Just this past week, the principal sent out an email, and in the email he said, the reason why our school is so great is because it's so small, word for word. And it's great because it is small. We know our principal, we know our teachers, we know all the staff. My son is a kindergartner and loves his school. He wants it to keep a small school. Right, Colton? You want to say, I want to keep it a small school?
I want to keep it a small school.
And so we have small little community members that realize the dramatic impact it's going to have to create a high school-sized school for these little kids. It's going to completely change the town, and it's not what's best for this school. We were willing to vote this project down because we know it's not what's best for our kids, and that's why we moved here. It's for what's best for our children and their education. So unless you're willing to risk this project failing, which I hope you all are not, I ask humbly that you review the proposed idea and keep our schools under the 300 threshold for each school. Do one at a time,
30
get the
seconds.
state reimbursement for each school, and go through the process. I don't want to have an Ipswich situation happen where we lose out on state funding because we have not listened to our voters. We're telling you right now, we have over 500 signees of a petition. That number is just going to grow. It's not going to get smaller. So unless you're willing to risk it, I humbly ask you to reconsider. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Eric.
Okay, do we have anybody else on? thank you. Do we have one more person on Zoom? Maybe we'll just continue on Zoom, maybe?
Angela, did you want to speak?
That's okay? Okay. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to speak?
Gary Cheeseman, 75 Pleasant Street in Wenham. Grew up here, attended a Bucher School and Center School. Over the last couple of weeks, as Select Board, I've received many emails, mostly long on emotion, as you might understand, detailing great memories of these three schools, but short on actual understanding of the process that's gone on over these multiple years, as well as what the true costs are. The three elementary schools are really inefficient. You can make the arguments as to what size is the best, but the fact is that it's being characterized as a mega school. Actually, the size proposed is just slightly larger than the average school in Massachusetts today. In a town where my parents built 4 schools coming into a blue-collar town at the time, compared today where the 2 towns have an assessed value over $4 billion, the idea that we cannot afford a state-of-the-art school for our students is difficult to understand. We have one shot at the state aid. It's a significant portion of the total amount that we could obtain. The schools I visited with Dr. Harvey and with Dr. Tracy, they are 70-year-old schools. No matter what our memories are, they are out of date. They don't meet security, they don't meet safety, they don't meet instructional, they don't meet structural standards for the day. If you have any questions on that, I would suggest go see the new Manchester Essex School or the Swampscott School. That's the type of schools our kids deserve. And yes, it's going to be expensive. And yes, I understand that our tax rates are very high, but the fact is, it's a critical portion of our town to have state-of-the-art schools. That's what really attracts it here. It's not, the attraction is not for a Cutler school that has a myriad list of problems. That's my point of view. And I hope we go and use the largest possible access to the state aid, because that's where the actual help for the town is going to be tax-wise.
Thank you. Okay. All right. It looks like we maybe have someone new on Zoom.
Francie,
Yep.
did you want to speak? May I speak?
Let me just see if this person on Zoom wants to speak. Yeah? No? Maybe? You go ahead in the room.
Thank you.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
Francie, hold on one second. I have one person in front of you.
okay. Go ahead. Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Hi, Lou Terranova, 54 Woodland Mead. First, I want to thank the school committee for the time that's been invested in this. I'm afraid, for a number of reasons, and Mr. Cheeseman mentioned this at the beginning of his talk, and that is the emotion associated with this project. This town is being torn apart. Hamilton's being torn apart. Wenham's being torn apart. The fight over the turf fields is indicative of where this is going to head with the school project. In case you hadn't noticed, our society is being torn apart because of issues. Issues like this on a small scale. Instead of pushing divisive issues, we need to find some way to compromise, and the compromise is not going to come from a 740 student mega school. It's got to be something smaller and something that's affordable. There's going to be a lot of emotion over the next year as this subject is being taken into consideration. You have a responsibility. I know that you're aligned with the school district, but you all live in this town. You live in Hamilton, you live in Wenham. Understand the responsibility that you have to keep this town together and not to push something that's going to continue to tear our towns apart. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we're going to take a person on Zoom.
Francie, are you ready?
Hello?
Hi, you're on. You're all set. You have 3
Hello.
minutes.
Hi. Yes, I'm sorry. I can't really hear from the Zoom for some reason. It sounded like somebody was speaking, but I couldn't really hear what was said. Just so for you to know that it's kind of hard to hear what's being spoken about over Zoom. In any case, I'll start to say, this is Francesca Connors, 343 Bay Road, a former school committee member. And I've spoken in multiple occasions about the importance of small schools in a community like ours. Sorry, my son just came into the room. Sorry, is there anybody else that can speak right now? Sorry, Joey, please.
Okay, I'm gonna put.
So, yeah, this is actually
Do you want to keep going?
the little one that's gonna go into the mega school that I'm really hoping he doesn't have to do that. But I wanted to say, really, I spoke many, many times about the importance of small schools in different forums that were kindly offered by the school building committee and the district. They gave opportunity to people to talk. I spoke about how little we know about the finance of all this and how many pieces are out there that are not just related to the building of the school, but a lot of other things that would be really important to talk about as a community, and how frustrating it is that different committees are not talking to one another. Like the finance committee points the fingers to the other committee, the school committee points the finger to the town points the finger to the school building committee. Nobody seems to really own the responsibility of this, and it would be nice to have somebody that actually owns it, that puts together all the pieces. In any case, what I really want to talk about is equity. I've heard equity being a big and maybe the only argument to support consolidation. And let me tell you, do we really think about words when we speak? I grew up in a town that was divided into a part that was very poor and a part that was wealthy. 2 different elementary schools in 2 different places of the town. One that was catering the wealthy group, and one was catering the poor part of town. That is not equity. That's what it is. What we're talking about here, like really consolidating 2 schools which have very similar demographics, very similar financial status, very, very similar everything really. And kids are all friends. I mean, saying that it's an equitable issue, if we don't consolidate or if we don't address all the schools at the same time, I think it's just kind of not using words the right way and kind of almost offensive to what in this world is inequitable right now. So I just wanted to raise this because I've heard it many, many times as the only argument brought up in support of this consolidation. And I just want to say, let's please don't do that. It just doesn't make any sense. And with this, I am concluding because my toddler is really right here behind me and doesn't let me speak.
Thank you,
But thank you for listening, and thank you for all that you're doing, and appreciate you giving us the time to speak today.
Of course, and just so you know, it's a lot easier and clearer to watch on HW Cam because after this we shut down the Zoom link after community comments.
Okay. Thank you. I'll do that. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay. Yep, come on up.
Hello, good evening. I'm Erica Todorici, 85 Woodland Mead. Appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. I moved to Hamilton to bring my daughter to a small school. I love the charming little town, and I just couldn't imagine dropping her off as a 6-year-old at a mega huge school. I live near Cutler. I see all the little children sprinting out at recess. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. Looking at the horses, and it's we're gonna wipe out all the green space that the kids have and put a mega school with a parking lot, and all they have is their little courtyard to go out to in the middle of the school. And I just can't imagine that for our children. This is not why we came to this town, and we're just overdeveloping it. And we want to walk to school with the families. We want the principal to know everyone. We want to know all the parents, and then bring them to the high school when they're ready. Not bring a first grader to a high school, 80,000 square foot, huge school. So please, please think of the children, think of their experience, what we're robbing them of, what we had when we were kids. Think of the school that you went to, and think of what you're robbing the parents of when they bring their little scared first grader to a huge, huge school. So please rethink it, and I appreciate everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy McWhorter, 18 Cunningham Drive. Do any of you people know who the Cutlers are? Do any of you people know who the Riches are? Do you not, you, sir, over there? Do you know them? Do you know anything about the town?
No, it's not. Yeah, we don't.
Okay, well, there you go. So, Nancy McWhorter is standing here in front of you 30 years ago. No sidewalks in this town. Do you know why we have sidewalks? Do any of you, raise your hand. Any of you know why we have sidewalks in this town? Because the Rich's son died on Sagamore Road by a double horse trailer. She said, old money here, the town is changing. Do you know that? Do any of you people know that on Sagamore Road? He died. And she gave money to the town to say, I'm going to put a sidewalk in so nobody else's child dies riding their bike on a narrow road being ridden over by a double horse trailer. I moved here years ago. There were no sidewalks. She funded our sidewalks. Do you know that? Do you know the Cutlers? Do you know the Rich family? They did a lot for this freaking town. A lot for this town. I sat here and I talked to you 2 days ago and said, when I came here, they want to redo all the sidewalks. And there was a lot of controversy with people, even in my own neighborhood, that stood behind me, and they wrote about me in the paper, and they said, get out of our town, go back to the city you came from. I didn't want a sidewalk. All I wanted was my sidewalk in front of my house to be refurbished, because my house is a circle, and the sidewalks went halfway up, and the rest of them, because the town never maintained them, they just took it over. And I sat here and I said, I wanted my sidewalk refurbished so my daughter and my son could walk on a sidewalk and walk all the way around to go to Cutler School. That's why I moved here, so my kids could walk to their elementary school. Do you know I had people in my neighborhood said, oh, well, they can cut through my yard. And I go, well, that's really great. In 3 years, are you gonna let my kid go through your rose bushes? And you know what, they shut that down because we couldn't go to Cutler anymore. So all those kids are all being bused, they're all being driven by their parents. And I am done with this mega school crap. I am done with these people who don't know the history of this town. We are a small community. Karen, anybody want to come here? My kid with special needs. My kid could not be in a school with 700 kids. He was 5 years old. They had to tape him to his chair so he could write his name. I am against any mega school. I couldn't even find my way around the high school on Parents' Night.
Ma'am, that's been 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you. So it's about 7:30. It looks like we've got someone in the room that is approaching the podium. Is there also someone on, maybe one more on Zoom? So let's have one more in the room, and then we'll check in. And like I said, we may wrap up soon. We had slated about 20 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead.
Great, thank you very much. Michael Madden, Highland Street, Hamilton. As I've been thinking about this for the past several weeks, a couple of months actually, I've been thinking about lots of different things to say. I spoke at length here the other night at the school building committee, so I won't take up that much of your time tonight. But I echo the concerns of everyone we've heard here tonight, except for this gentleman over here, which incidentally, I live in the neighborhood of Cutler. You don't. It's in your interest that the students move over there. I get that, I understand that. But we've all heard the comments, smaller schools are better. I've heard from a number of elementary school teachers that is their point of view as well. I have a daughter at Cutler School. She even said to me this morning, I was trying to introduce the concept to her. You know the word she said to me? Words? She said, Dad, that's scary. I wouldn't want to go to a big school like that. And I'm sorry, it is a mega school. In a town like Hamilton and Wenham, it is a mega school. We're not in the suburbs of New York City or Chicago or anywhere else like that. But I'd like to also approach it from another angle as well. I'm a project manager. I've been a project manager for 20 plus years. I'm a member of the Project Management Institute, PMI. The gold standard in project management is PMP certification, project management professional. The OPMs, owners, project managers that we have on this project, I asked them, not one of them are PMP certified. And I'm concerned because of that, they're not managing this project the way it needs to be managed. So for example, and I've worked on a number of projects, the biggest thing that can derail a project are your key stakeholders. These people here tonight, the people on the phone, on Zoom, and the people that are going to vote next April, they're your key stakeholders. And to manage your key stakeholders, you need to take two things into consideration. Those that are interested in the project, from least interested to very interested on the x-axis, and those that have influence on the y-axis. All these people here are very interested and they have a lot of influence because we'll all be voting next April. So far, as it was mentioned, we've over 500 signatures. That will not decrease, it will only grow. So I would urge you all to please take it into consideration because a mega school like this will not get voted in next April. Thank you very much for your
time. Mr. Tracy, do we have someone that wants to speak on Zoom?
I think so.
Okay, I think this will be the last one I think we'll take on Zoom if that's, and then we'll see what we have.
Hi, TT, do you want to speak? Nope. Jumped off.
Okay, looks like no. All right. It looks like we've got two people in the room that want to speak. Is that correct? Right. Sure, we'll do
Good
two,
evening.
and then I'm going to check in with the committee. Go ahead.
Rosie Kennedy, newest elected selectman in Hamilton. Very happy to be there to represent the residents of this town. I have two comments that I wanted to make, actually three. The first one is that I supported the building of a new school, the Cutler School. I believe that that school needs to be, at the very least, renovated, if not totally rebuilt. I think that our children deserve that. The second thing I wanted to say was that I was distressed during one of the meetings, the community meetings, where the school superintendent was heard to say that the corridors in this new building will be so big that I can drive my Jeep down it. And I worry that there's more concern about the status of this than there is for the well-being of a child. I have a child who has special needs. He's older now. But a lot of people here are very concerned about the impact on their young children. Kids are terrified. I can remember being terrified going into junior high, as it was called when I was a youngster. It is terrifying. And our children are exposed to enough stress in their lives day to day without incurring this additional stress. They cannot settle down and study when they're so overwhelmed by their surroundings. And I've not heard a whole lot of concern about that, which concerns me and concerns the parents and residents here. And then the third thing I wanted to talk about was how this school district manages its finances. Last year, there was a stabilization fund that was incurred to put in the excess funding from the previous year or years. Last year, there was a significant amount of money in that, I believe a few $1 million. And we've also been told that the high school needs a new roof to the tune of $2 million. Instead of investing that money in a new roof, this school district invested that money in the athletic fields. What kind of a school district would put the physical needs of a school behind an athletic field? I urge you to rethink your commitment to this mega school. I urge you to rethink where you put your maintenance money, and I urge you to think about the impact upon the young children, the families, and the residents in general in these two towns. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to have one more, and then I think we're going to wrap up the citizens' comments. Go ahead.
Jeff Austin, Sharon Road. Eric, you heard my spiel the other night. We did move here for the small schools. We didn't move. We had an option to go to Beverly, much larger school. We moved here for the small schools. They are in disrepair. We need to do something about that. A large school for this town is not the answer. We need to just fix what we have. And if it's redoing Cutler and then doing the other schools over time, that's the way to go. Like Mr. Musser and a few others said, this is about the children. It is really scary for a young child to introduce themselves to school in this massive school, and it's massive for this town, like someone said. Additionally, I keep on hearing, we're going to get all this funding from the state, which, I don't know if that's guaranteed, but, the $50 million is being claimed, and then I heard another number, there's $20 million from Winthrop's property sale afterwards. That doesn't account for all the debt we incur afterwards. The numbers that are being run right now don't even include debt that comes after the project, the demolish of Winthrop, the cleanup of Winthrop. What happens when we put housing on that afterwards? And I know you want to separate the two, but they're tied together. When you put new apartments over there for the MBTA or whatever, these new housing projects, that adds more students. What does it cost to send one student to the school? You add 200 apartment units over there and then some into Wenham as well. That all is more debt for us. We're not doing this fiscally responsible across the board. This project team, the OPM or PMO team, is not doing it fiscally responsible. The town's not acknowledging that. The finance team seems to be overwhelmed with all these numbers. The school board volleys it back to the rest of the committees. We're not doing the town justice, and more importantly, as the other gentleman said, the children. Keep the small schools, repair what we have, keep the open spaces. We moved here for the small schools, the lack of overdevelopment, and the open green spaces. Honor those things that make this town what it is today. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. At this time, I'm going to look to the committee, but I feel like we're going to close up citizens' comments. I want to thank you all very much for taking the time to come and share your views. It's important to hear a wide variety of views, and I really do appreciate everyone taking the time and for the respectful and thoughtful comments. Thank you. Next up on our agenda, I realized that I didn't give people the protocols and mission statements, so I'm hoping people just jump up and say that they're, who's interested in reading a small portion of our protocols? Julia, thank you so much. It's at page 2, Julia.
As elected members of the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee, we, including the superintendent, accept the high honor and trust that has been placed in us to ensure that the students of the district receive the best education possible. To that end, we hereby commit to the following in the conduct of our business. Number 11, a school committee meeting is a business meeting that is held in public, not a public meeting. The committee will make every effort to ensure meetings are effective and efficient.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, and who would like to read a portion of our mission statement? David Frankel wants it. There we go. Can you speak right into the mic?
The Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee will lead and inspire a district that empowers administrators to seek innovation, responsiveness, and creativity in all aspects of district operations.
Thank you. All right, and we have already heard from our student representative. So next up is the consent agenda. Does anyone have any items from the consent agenda that they would like to hold? Oh. David, if you're willing, I'm ready for a motion. The consent agenda.
I forgot that's me. I move that the Hamilton Regional School Committee accept the consent agenda as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jen Carr. There is no discussion on the consent agenda. All those in favor? That is unanimous, and the motion passes. Okay. So I am going to look to the committee on this next, a new business. You will see that item G is the preferred elementary school option discussion. I am going to just look to the committee to see whether people would like to move that up. I only suggest that because I suspect that many of the people here, that's what they would like to hear about.
Sure.
That's fine
I'm
with me.
just looking for any objections about going out of order. Okay. All right, looks like that's what we're going to do. So we are going to move item G up to the first new business item. This agenda item is just a discussion. It's I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Tracy, who's going to give us an update. And my vision on this item is that it's an opportunity for members of the committee to ask questions so that we can have clarity about where we are exactly right now in the process and what the next steps are. And I encourage the committee to ask your own questions, and also if you have questions that you've received from the community, this is an opportunity to ask. Eric, to you.
Thank you. Let's just switch this over. Let's put together a quick presentation, kind of pulled some of the pieces from the other night, the Monday night school building committee meeting, so I just want to run through that to at least kick off the discussion. As you know, we've been in the process for a while now. Completed Module 1, Module 2, and we're just at the end of Module 3 of the MSBA process. Module 3 requires a May 2nd submission for PSR, which is Preferred Schematic Report, which is basically everything we did during the feasibility study component of the process. That process...
Excuse me, Jen has a question.
Could we rotate the screen so people could see?
Yeah, we can do that. Thank you, Jen. All right, I want to make sure that you guys can also, that Trent and Jen and Julia, can you all see too? No?
Jeff, if you pull that mic off and just put it on the seat, you can move the podium. There you go.
Thank you all.
Group assistance. Can you see it, Julia?
All right, yeah, can you guys, I want to make sure the committee can all see it.
Yeah.
Yep, okay. All right, can you back up just a little bit, Eric?
Sure. So this slide just outlines the process, the MSBA process that we started back in really 2022. Eligibility period we went through, we were eligible, found eligible, we formed the project team, went through that process. Now we're in the feasibility mode. We're at the end of feasibility study. And the feasibility study has a final report known as the preferred schematic report, which is really just saying, okay, we've gone through the process, and in our case, we've rounded down from 14 options down to a single option. That gets submitted to the MSBA, and that goes through their approval process over the next few weeks. And then ultimately, they determine at their board meeting in June whether or not to invite schools into the next module, which is schematic design. Schematic design takes you well into the fall. It's probably about a 7-month process. It's fairly long, fairly extensive. So that would be our next step there. The statement of interest was submitted, believe it or not, the first one in 2008. We've submitted 6 for the Cutler project, and I think 4 or 5 for each of the other 2 schools. Cutler was accepted. We entered the eligibility period in 2022, and that really just saying, okay, let's get pieces of the puzzle together and move forward into the authorization with the school committee. We've gone through all of that, formed the project team in 2023, and then jumped into feasibility. From there, we'll go into schematic design with an ultimate opportunity to secure funding for whatever project is chosen in April 2025 town meeting. These are the current members of the building committee. Someone had asked me to display this one. And then we have the eligibility period. If you go back to the beginning, in November 3rd, 2023, we sent this letter to the MSBA, and is really their letter about the certification of enrollment design.
Eric, can you hold on one second? Yeah, just so you know, if you go into the agenda for tonight, you can get this entire slideshow, so you don't need to keep taking.
This one's
Actually,
not, but I
this is
will
actually-
post it.
this is-
I got it at the last second
Yeah.
before I got here, so.
But yeah, we'll make this available for
Yeah,
you.
I will
Right,
post it.
and I will, I might just also interrupt. HW Cam, can I ask you a question? Is the screen that's being displayed, is that being filmed?
You can see where that came.
Yep, okay, good. So it's also part of the video that HW Cam is presenting right now.
So this slide is the eligibility period certification of design enrollment. When we were initially invited in, agreed with the MSBA, said we would love to be into the process. They went through a process of examining some options that were available to us after touring all 3 of our elementary schools. They were very willing to take on the Cutler project as one of the most needy buildings out of the 3 elementary schools. And all of these design enrollments center about the Cutler property, and that was the SOI they accepted. So they do their studies, they do growth and death rates and real estate sales, and they go through a fairly extensive process. And they come up with these design enrollments, all of which are anywhere between 30 and 50 or 60 kids above, 50 or 60 kids above where we're at now. So for example, the 285 student school, K-5 Cutler, if you just rebuilt Cutler right now, we only have 249 kids in that building. So they do build in cushion in each of the options. So the 4 options were presented to us, and they said if you want to move forward and you believe that you would be willing to build these 4 options, sign this document, move forward. It was approved by the school committee and sent in November of 2022. Some of the coming schedules or milestones, if you will. We did the school building committee vote to select the preferred option last Monday. The school committee meetings tonight, obviously. School building committee vote to approve the PSR submission, and that's the submission of everything that we've done in the PSR process since about February till now. It's probably about a 1,000-page document that gets submitted to the state. Then there'll be another school committee meeting next Thursday, of which we would actually vote on the grade reconfiguration, which is a requirement of the state. Any project where you're reconfiguring in your district any of the current models that are in place, it has to come back before the school committee for approval. In this case, if you go with the 740 student option, there is a reconfiguration where you take all of the kids in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade in all 3 elementary schools, put them in one building, and then convert. The Bucher would be a pre-KK early learning center or early childhood center. And then on the 3rd, we would submit the PSR to the MSBA. And then that goes off to their Facilities Assessment Subcommittee meeting. That is a meeting they determine. We haven't been told whether we're on the 14th or the 22nd. Basically, they go through all of our information, come up with a list of questions, and we work with them to answer the questions related to the PSR submission. Early June, we're going to do another community forum. We wanted to push it out because we wanted to get at least to the Facilities Assessment Subcommittee to see what the state was thinking with their question and answers. Get that another fourth community option out there. Then the Board of Directors meet in June 26th. They do an every other month meeting. The June 26th would be anybody that did their Facilities Assessment Subcommittee meeting either on the 14th or the 22nd. We're not the only school district that would be involved in that. We would be one of several. So the Board of Directors comes together. They take the recommendations from that subcommittee meeting and determine if they want to invite us into schematic design. You know, they could also say, no, go back and tweak the design, or they could definitely not agree with a choice that we make. So again, we're still really checking boxes for the MSBA along this process. As you probably know, this outlines all of the original 14 options and the 5 arrows. I'll get closer on those in a second, but this was the initial tallies of the school building committee when we were first asked to evaluate the 5 options, and then they were asked to do it again leading into Monday night's meeting for the 5 options that were left on the table, and these are the results of those. And other than the code upgrade and the addition renovation, the scores were right around the same: 99.6, 99.3, and 100.1. And those were the scores for the C31, C33, C34, all the new construction. So that was the results of the tallies of the school building committee going into Monday night's meeting. And then we voted, accepted option C3.4, as we know, which brings us here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. So what I'm hoping we'll have an opportunity to do is we can just make sure that each committee member gets an opportunity to ask questions. So I don't know, we can just go around. I don't know who wants to start, but my thought is that we want to let everyone speak before anyone speaks again. So questions?
I have a question.
Amy?
I am curious about, I think it was either February or March, you presented the initial plans or the ideas to faculty. I was wondering if you got feedback from them about any of the plans.
Yeah, the faculty, the elementary faculty, I met with them back in February and just presented all of everything that's been going on along the way. They get all the same updates everybody else does. They get all the same options to chime in on surveys and things like that. Elementary schools are excited, teachers are excited because of where they're working now. I mean, some of the classrooms are tight. Some of them are hot all the time. Some of them are cold all the time. It's just it's a fantastic opportunity for them to really improve their working conditions and grow along with kids in a really strong teaching and learning environment. So I haven't had anybody come to me and say, don't do this.
No.
No.
I just bring that up because, as of course, we're concerned about the students and their needs, but also this is our faculty, our teachers' workspace. So I think that's important to keep in mind when we're thinking about this new building. Thank you.
Okay. Who else has questions? Trent?
I apologize, Eric, because I know we were supposed to meet so that we could talk about this.
Right.
And I'm supposed to be, not here. But alas, this is how we are. And so that means that I didn't get to preview you with some of my major questions here. But I do have, first and foremost, the biggest concern for me is that we succeed in getting funding from the state. I think that is of utmost importance.
Right.
And I think that anything that we could do to jeopardize that would be folly. And my concern is that the outpouring of information from the community as this project has neared its next milestone has been gargantuan. And it makes me concerned that we are leading the town, after appropriating $1 million for this feasibility study, to a place where we're going to get nothing, and that causes harm. But my concerns here are not about what option is actually coming before the committee, but about process. So I think, in thinking about this a lot, that there might be a disconnect between the information that the committee is getting and the information in the community. That's the only explanation that I have for the, hundreds of emails that we've gotten at this point in time. Getting accosted at Crosby's when I'm trying to buy something, because Honda's a rare name, it turns out. So the reason that I think that there might be a disconnect is because the committee is constituted unlike any other committee in the entire town, as I can tell. There's a large number of people. You're the chair of the committee. There's a large number of people on the committee that are your direct reports or indirect reports. Correct?
Several, yeah.
I think my count, it's one less than a majority on the committee. And then a large number of people on the committee are not actually members of the town. But it's not clear in any of the information that's been made available.
You're talking, sorry, you're not talking about the school committee.
Not the school committee.
You're
School
talking
building.
about
The building committee.
But I think there's a very important distinction between the two. So I think we just should make that.
Oh, no, of course, yeah.
Because you were just saying committee, so I was getting confused.
Totally get it, yeah.
Because we are not direct reports to Eric.
Everybody here is town resident,
Yes.
right? And everybody here was duly elected by the public.
Yes.
And our statutory authority is vested from that election,
Yes.
right? And that's where I think this committee is very different, right? There's not, in order to be on a town committee in Hamilton or Wenham, you have to be a member of the community, right? And so that's where I think that there's maybe not the same information that's getting to this committee as what's out in the public. And I do think that it's really hard if you have a committee constituted of people that report to you for them to vote their true opinion, right? I know that if I was on a committee and my boss had a vote and I had to raise my hand against that, that would be a hard thing for me to do, right? There's a conflict of interest there. It doesn't mean that there was bias introduced. It means that there's a potential for bias being introduced. And I also think that...
I just want to clarify what you're asking for. The committee is put together by the MSBA, right? So there's a requirement of who needs to actually be involved on the committee.
No,
right?
the MSBA requirement is that if you read it, it was interpreted very stringently by this group, but it says you have to include you have to endeavor to include one or more of the following people, and then it lists a large number of people. But it doesn't list, the only person on there that I can tell that it's actually required is you.
Okay,
Because it says,
chosen by the MSBA.
according to the MSBA document.
Right.
Yeah, everybody else, it says, must include at least one, right? So they didn't constitute the committee. The committee was constituted, as far as I can tell, by this group. But it doesn't have, there's no information publicly available. There is a question on the building committee website, how many people are actually town residents? And there's a link. And if you go to that link, it gives mostly the professional addresses of where people work in town. It doesn't actually tell you who's a town resident or not. And the reason I think that's concerning is that the impact is going to be on the town residents. Now, people who have great information because they work in these environments, such as schools, definitely need to have a voice and an opinion. But I do think that when you're a town resident and you're looking at it, it gives you pause about the process, right? Are people making a decision that aren't going to be affected by the negative aspects of the decision? And then again, I think that the other piece of information that the committee collected was in a survey that was sent out. And the idea, of course, was to involve the public and ask them their opinion on what of these options was going to be helpful. But that survey was fundamentally flawed. And I sent an email to you indicating that it was fundamentally flawed. And I think that there's a problem. The reason it was fundamentally flawed, for those that weren't on the email, is that you could fill it out as many times as you wanted. So there's no way of knowing. I think 173 people responded to it.
Yeah.
It could be one person that responded to it. There's no way of knowing. So I think that if we're going to be appropriating $100 million from residents and $50 million from the state, we could spend money to get a polling company to actually determine what is going to succeed in the town. Because I fear that we're going to end up with a lot of time, energy, effort, and money, and it's going to go to vote, and it's going to get turned down, and then it's all on the taxpayers. And we have the ability, like, I can't imagine it would be more than a few $1,000s, maybe 10, but in the $150 million, on the line environment, I think that getting a professional company to actually determine what the will of the voting public is would allow us to say, are we going for something that's not going to actually succeed? I'm done.
I'd
Well, I
like
would
to make.
say a lot of the faculty don't live here.
Excuse me.
God, I can't hear.
A lot of the faculty do not live in Hamilton Wenham.
Start over, 'cause I can't
Excuse me.
So you would want it that
Julia,
way.
excuse me, Julia, hold on one second. Hold on. So I just want to say, I absolutely am thrilled that you're all here. And just to remind you that this is actually a business meeting and it takes place in public. It's not a meeting for you to participate, and it's actually distracting for us in terms of hearing if people are making noise. So I'm thrilled that you're here, and I just want to encourage you to allow us to do our work. Thank you. I couldn't hear what you said, Julia.
A lot of the faculty do not live in Hamilton and Wenham, so I think they should also, their point of view should also be considered, is what I'm trying to say. And
Okay,
just because they don't live in the
so-
town.
Okay, so Eric, I want to give you the opportunity to, there was a lot there, and I just want to give you, Eric, the opportunity to respond, and then David too is, as the representative to the school building committee, if you have something to add, I'd like to have your point of view on, or response. Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you. The building committee template, if you will, comes from the MSBA, and it was presented to this committee word for word. We basically took their template off of their website and talked to them about who has to be there. So town managers, town administrators, selects board, FinCom people. When we started this process, there were, I want to say 21 or 22 people that were on the original group. And slowly but surely, as it usually happens with long-term committees, you lose people along the way. So the reality is the committee is really reaching out to all of these people in the community. So select board member, town manager, town administrator, to get them as part of that committee using the school committee member. And then there are other open slots for people in the community. So we have an architect, we had a contract attorney, we have a building specialist, engineering specialist. So they're really reaching out and trying to get some people with expertise. That whole document then goes to the MSBA for their approval. They send it to a legal team, make sure that the town administrator is the town administrator, and then they approve it or not. They could send it back and say, you need more people in this area, or you don't have enough people in that area. So that was approved by the school committee and the MSBA during the initial stages of the process. I think it was back in June 22, when that first was presented here to this committee, then moved forward to the MSBA. Now it's dwindled, as many committees do, and realistically we haven't been filling voids. The director of facilities is not on there any longer. The principal who's leaving is not on there any longer, but the other principal is, so that helped to fill the void. The MSBA was okay with that. So we really just tried to continue to keep the body that's in place moving forward. That's how it just came together. It came together with people who are in the community. I think it should have people in the school district. You're building a school. They should have some say, especially teachers. We have 2 teachers and a couple of administrators on there from school buildings, and some of those positions are required and some of them are not. So,
Am I able to respond?
Yeah.
As my reading of the MSBA document, I'm not disagreeing with any of the things that they list as preferred options, but they're all preferred. And so I think that in terms of like the public seeing themselves in the committee, again, I'm trying to talk about like what explains the disconnect between what I'm seeing I've been doing this for I was sworn in today, and I've got 300 emails from town folk, right? I think the disconnect is that they don't see themselves represented in the decision-making process on that committee. And I look at the committee and I really have a hard time disagreeing with it. But I think that is part of the explanation as to why we're seeing this very surprising to my mind, maybe not to your mind, contesting of the decisions that were made.
Can I ask a question?
I'm going to
or-
actually, I'm going to let David, if you have anything, just as a school building
Yeah,
committee
I mean,
member.
I've been
Can
sort
you
of
talk
taking
into the
notes
mic?
to try and sort of touch base on a lot
David,
of stuff.
can you
but
use the mic? Sorry.
Sorry, I usually don't need them. No, I actually really like that idea, the idea of sort of a survey company, because, I mean, there are two definites, right? There's just two definites right now. This is a big school, and it's a lot of money. Everything else is sort of, measuring in what sort of you think makes sense, right? And we can go back and forth, right? We can disagree. I completely respect where you guys are coming from, but, it's a big school and it's expensive. And I've said this before, and I don't mean to sort of belittle it by any means, but like, you don't tend to hear from the people that agree with you, right? So I do think that it's a great idea to sort of get a better poll of the community at large, because this is a lot of money, and it's on it's on us, our shoulders, to be selling this to the public to try to get those votes. We have a very difficult task, and this has to be voted to be approved 4 different times, right? So that's going to take a lot of work on us. Again, we can disagree on many facets of this. It is, and I said it the other night, I will continue to say it, there's no perfect solution to this project. You're just trying to sort of look at it as a whole and see what you can sort of do to fix the most needs, right? To check the most boxes. And again, it's up to us to sort of try and get 2/3 at least of the voting majority to agree with us, and that this is the best route for the town. Because again, it's a big school, it's a lot of money, right? So, and these are the new lights, by the way, right? So these
Saving energy.
We're saving energy.
So I really like that idea. I hear what you're saying, and even sort of, I don't want to say it's confusion, because I know exactly where you're coming from and why you're saying it, but like sort of this disconnect in how the committee was put together, or sort of like, oh, here's some holes where I think, you know what I mean? Like, that's important, because like we are starting to realize that there is sort of this disconnected message, right? And like, I went home the other day, and like, I mean, you guys know me, most of you guys know me, like, I'm really hard cookie to crack, whatever, but like, I was kind of panicky when I went home after my other, like, my wife was like, what's going on with you? And I'm like, I just got yelled at because I'm trying to build a school, and I'm like, in a town that I've lived in since 1986. And like, I understand it's not a perfect solution, but like, I'm not trying to harm anyone, and like, and so like, there is this disconnect. And again, I respect where you got, where everything is coming from. You're shaking your head at me. I'm like, why? I'm telling you, I'm hearing you, but as I look at things holistically, I see things differently as an educator, as an elected official, as someone who represents the school district. I'm seeing things and the needs of this town and this opportunity we have, to sort of get all this money, and there's something lost, right? Like, we're 20 feet away, and you're shaking your head at me, and I'm saying I hear you and I respect you, and we're just not agreeing. Right? I'm trying to just build a school, right? Like, and it's just funny to me that I'm being attacked for it, right? So I like this idea. And again, the 8 emails I got, 10 emails I got, the 25 people in the room right now, right? I've been at this almost 9 years now, so I'm used to this. Excuse me, but I mean, I've also always had every vote I've had go in. Like I said, the people who support show up when the votes matter. They don't necessarily come to yell at me that I'm doing everything right. So just something to sort of keep in mind. But again, I kind of agree. I think it would be in our best interest to make sure that we're not going through all this work for nothing.
Okay. I think Amy's next. Everyone's gonna get a turn. Go ahead, Amy.
We'll get turns.
Or did you already ask? Did you already speak?
Well, I asked a
think-
question about, but I have a response to Trent. I asked a general
Okay,
question.
I think I'm gonna let everybody speak first. David, go ahead.
Sure. I'm totally in favour of a well-constructed survey and a proper random sampling kind of approach to how to get it, short of an exhaustive survey. Although in a town this size, it's actually possible to do an exhaustive survey, but at the very least do a statistically significant one, and a questionnaire designed to not be loaded one way or the other in terms of its opinion. Not steering to an opinion, but getting an opinion neutral set of messaging in it in order to get a genuine view of alternatives. Now, there's going to be some questions about what alternatives you lay out in a survey like to see who will support which particular alternative. So, that's not a simple overnight thing to design, but I absolutely think that one way to diffuse the heat in this as an issue in the community, we were all elected to represent the whole community, and we should therefore go out of our way to find out what the vast majority of the community really feels. We're getting a very strong feeling about what one group feels, but I think what Trent is proposing is probably about the only way to really ascertain the opinions, rather than by the strength of who shows up at a meeting like this. We need to get that overall picture. So totally in favour of that.
Jen?
So, as many of the people here have gotten multiple emails, I've actually looked for, I guess, historical examples on what happens if this fails at town meeting. And the best example I've been able to find is what happened in Ipswich. If I'm remembering the dates correctly, and I may not be, they had a similar proposal to combine 2 elementary schools in 2018. The fee for the new combined school was estimated at approximately $66 million. It failed. They had to start over at the beginning. They still don't have guaranteed funding for a combined school. They're working on developing community support, but again, the combined school is the one that is still on the table. The big change has been the price tag. So instead of paying $66 million for a combined school, the estimates I was able to find on various websites were in between $90 million and $115 million. So by putting this off, nobody's disagreeing that this has to be done. Like, I think that's one thing we can all agree on. Our schools do not meet the needs of the community. They're not even up to code in many respects, and they're dangerous. If this fails, if we can't get the community behind this, are we going to be looking at the same thing in 5 years, only with a 30 to 60% increase? I mean, 150 million is a hard number to swallow, but 200 to 225 million in 5 years? I mean, people might not think this is the best option for the community, and I've looked at the plans, and there are things that, I love, and there are things that I'm like, yeah. But I don't want to be on this committee in 5 years and have to come back to you guys and say, we've got to do this, and it's going to cost more. I mean, if we just looked, and again, I'm a numbers person, if we just looked at the estimates for updating Cutler and Winthrop with current numbers, we're looking at $200 million to do both. And if this fails, we're going to have to come back to you, and it's not going to be a cheaper price tag. You know, I mean, even if if everybody got what they wanted, and you know, we were able to do whatever option we wanted, it's still going to cost more in 5 years than it does now.
Thank you. Julia?
I
Oh,
have
sorry.
a question, not
Yeah.
a statement, but I'll let you finish.
And our schools aren't going to get any better in between now and maybe 2028. So.
Julia?
I actually have a question for Eric, but before I do, I know it's really enticing to villainize the school committee, but I have a student at Bucher, and I have a daughter who went to Winthrop. So, you know, I actually am living, and I do know a little bit about this community. But my question for Eric is, next week, what does a yes vote mean? This might be a very long answer. And what does a no vote mean? Like, what are the consequences of a no vote, and what would happen with a yes vote?
So it actually is a simple answer with a yes vote. If you as a committee said, yes, we support the school building committee's answer, then the project just continues to move forward. It meets the May 3rd.
The project as stated and as voted on by the SBC.
As voted on currently by the SBC.
So, okay, can I just clarify? I'm sorry, this is the same, it's the same question. The vote is, I understand that the vote is technically to reconfigure the grades, correct?
Correct. Because the current preferred option is reconfiguring the grades as they stand now, there's a required vote. Now, you're saying if you guys all vote 7-0 to support the school building committee's recommendation, the process moves forward.
But are we voting to reconfigure the grades, or we're voting on this project?
You're voting on both. As the reconfiguration, you're accepting
So the
the
yes
project.
vote would be yes to both.
Yeah, you're voting on accepting the reconfiguration of grade, which says you're accepting the project as voted by the school
But
building
the
committee.
reconfiguration is contingent on the build, right? So
Right,
we wouldn't just
right. You wouldn't
all of a sudden
reconfigure.
just stick
I just wanna
kindergartens
be
here
very,
and then,
very clear.
right?
Yeah.
So the reconfiguration is contingent on the approval of the suggestion by the SBC.
Right.
Okay. And a no vote.
If you just build, I'm just going to use an example, build a Cutler School, right, where a new Cutler School, then there's no real reconfiguration, and you can just move forward. I would still say, bring it back to the committee to make sure everybody's on board, but the no vote to the recommendation of the school building committee has a couple of consequences. Time, because it pushes things out further, which is not a big deal when you're making an important decision, in my mind, but I think it's also an opportunity to say to the building committee, okay, we don't think this will fly. You know, just use that as an example. We have a number of people here that say, you know, we're going to vote against this at town meeting, and we feel that way. You can say, no, we don't support the school building committee's recommendation. Send it back to the committee to go kind of back to the table. But I think if you do that, you need to outline your reasons why very clearly, so that they can go back and come to another decision over the remaining 5 options that they started with. And then that would push the process out, depending on how long the state would allow us. I think the state would just push us into the next segment. They do them every other month, so the two FAS meetings in May, one we would get invited to if we stay on the current track, that would shift to June, July, so there'd be 2 FAS. So it basically pushes the project out a couple of months, which could impact the possibility of getting it on town meeting for 2025.
Okay, that's very helpful.
Because only because the schematic design process is about 7 or 8 months, so it's long.
Does the MSBA look at that and say there's no appetite in this town for anything, and we're not going to give you any,
No,
are we
no,
penalized?
No, I had a conversation with them today because I was curious about that question myself. The MSBA wants to work with us. They want to see us be successful, and the reality is they are comfortable if the community's comfortable. You know, they're realistically looking at, okay.
They want a project to succeed.
Yeah, they're in the business of making sure we're building schools and making sure our communities are happy with those schools.
Yeah.
You know, because you may someday have to go back, because you really want to show that you're working towards a realistic solution, Because if it goes in, all of a sudden, you're building just a Cutler school, you're still submitting SOIs for the other schools, the roof at the high school, the Bucher school, the Winthrop school. So those things still continue on.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to ever fall out of that, and
Okay.
I think it lengthens the process, and I think, you know, in a lot of ways, there's opportunity for I think, as Trent said, a deeper dive into the full spectrum of the community.
I have a question, but I know Amy's been waiting. Go ahead.
I just have a point of clarification, I guess, and a concern. The concern is I did not receive hundreds of emails, so I'm a little confused as to.
Receive what emails?
Hundreds of emails.
Yeah, I was gonna actually say that
Yeah.
separately.
I thought I was
that
receiving. I know
if you
what
are
everyone else
receiving, we do have as part of our protocols that if you're receiving emails that the rest of the school committee is not CC'd on, please forward them to the entire committee, because I think while I did receive tens of emails, I did not receive hundreds of emails. So
I haven't counted. It might be hyperbolic.
yeah, and I will say as the committee certainly knows, and I suspect the public probably also knows, I am not much of a social media user, and I do know from working with many of my colleagues, sometimes if you are reading a lot of social media posts, it feels like you're receiving a lot more emails than you are, because I have found, as not a frequent user of social media, I often have a little bit of a different experience. So anyway,
Yeah,
go on.
and I didn't say that to say that you weren't being truthful. I just want
You
to
wanna
make
see
sure
them
I'm
all.
receiving all of the information, that's all. And then the other thing is just a point of clarification, like your analogy about Eric being the boss of the school building committee, I don't think quite suits, because a boss at a job that you get paid for would have a different air of like wanting to side with that person than the way the school building committee is designed to be a collaborative. So I just wanted to also make that point of clarification, because it is a confusing process. That's all.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, quickly, and then
Just
we
very
do still have a long agenda, and but this is an important conversation, so yes, please do.
I don't know if that's the perception of the people on the committee. And
Interesting.
because if I had somebody, if there are teachers on the committee, right? So these teachers, you're their boss's boss's boss. Maybe I included one more boss in there than necessary. That's an intimidating hierarchy, right? And when you want to have everybody on a committee voice their true opinion, having a hierarchy on the committee is something that could obscure that.
I don't know if I agree with that.
I have some questions, but I'll just take this opportunity to say I think both things can be true. I think it's super important to have teachers and administrators on the committee, and I see your point. I think both things are true. I don't know how to square that circle. I'm going to take my turn to ask a couple questions.
I'd like to ask a quick question when you're done.
Okay. So one I'm going to start with, I actually just have a clarifying question which came from a member of the public in an email that I wanted to make sure that I understood. A member of the public asked something about this is a very specific question, but I just want to make sure that I got it right, that the school number of students is 740. And I believe that what the member of the public was trying to ask in an email was, since our actual number is lower than that, I think what she was trying to say is that, would that be an additional, is that room to grow or an add-on? But it's not. We would be, if we went with this option, we would be building for 740 students, correct?
So the MSBA,
plan.
the MSBA has a space summary, and the space summary is designed about the numbers they come up with. So they come up with 740 in this case, or 285 in the smaller case. They are larger than what you actually have in place, because they're doing the examination of the communities and looking at growth across both communities. They're looking at, like, as I said earlier, home sales, deaths, births, things like that. They actually build in two mechanisms for that. They require all projects, no matter what you're building, to have extra space. So the 285, as I said earlier, there's about 249, 250 kids at the Cutler School right now, so there's space for another 35 students. There's currently in the grades 1 through 5, there's currently 679 students in grades 1 through 5. So there's room there at the other end of the spectrum. So they do build it in, and the second mechanism is they require the architects to design and make sure they include future expansion. So whether that means putting something, adding on to the building or going up, it just depends on what you're building and how you're building it. Even for the smallest option, if you build the 285 student option, you still are required to show, you're not building anything, you're just showing on plans like this is a spot that is appropriate for a future expansion of, classrooms.
I think that's I think that's the clarification I was looking for. I don't want to speak for this person, but I think that she was asking about, is the jump from the 679 to 740, is that future expansion, or are we looking at building a building, the cost estimates at 740? And I think the answer is we're looking at building a building at 740.
Correct.
And I just want to make sure, because I think her question was a good one, was her fear, or I don't know for sure, but was like, are we really looking at the cost is only for the 679, and then we would have an expansion, but really we would be looking at 740.
Correct.
Thank
And
you.
it's based on, again, their space summary where they say they'll take numbers of classrooms and
Yep.
assign, their average is 22.
Yep.
Our average is lower, but they average 22 and they just multiply it.
An important part to think about, all of these, from the smallest to the largest, has room, has extra sort of head count
Yeah.
in there,
Yep.
right, for expansion. Plus, the other part, which I've heard a little bit of confusion about, is that every single plan that needs to go through has to have some sort of option for future expansion.
Yeah.
So if we were to
Yeah.
have a population boom, every single plan that we've put forward so far has had at some point, because I got noted the other night, they're like, oh, what's this dotted line for
Yeah.
future expansion? Everything needs to have future expansion, which is really important to think about, especially in our case, because we're talking about Cutler School, rather. When Cutler was first built, it was immediately irrelevant. It was immediately too small. When literally they opened the doors, it was too small. So then they had to put extension units on the back, and that's how we got sort of into the mess we got into, 60 years ago. So now the whole process is them building in the fact that it can grow, right? So again, 740, I'm not gonna lie, it sounds like a huge school. I'm not 100% comfortable with that number, but that is in our total population, and again, how do you get to that number? But it's the fact that if there, is more housing to be, if the turnover rate, we get a lot more young families coming into the community, right? We have more people coming into the school system. Hey, listen, I'm telling you right now, you build a new school, people are moving to town,
Yep.
right? It's got to be on the MLS flyer, right? Excuse me. So we know that's there, but the thing is, the MSBA has also figured that out, and they have now, because they used to not do this, right? This is another reason why the timing is so important. They now do factor in the fact that they're, to let all of this stuff be able to grow, and then should you need to add on at some point, it would be, faster and cheaper because you're sort of planning that in the initial stages. Right? So sometimes this seems expansive. I mean, and again, I'm not lying. I'm not going to say it's not. It is a big school, but part of this design is to sort of take care of all these problems all at once, right? They've learned from their mistakes. We're trying as a community to sort of learn from our mistakes. Again, excuse me, I've been doing this and a part of this project for 8 years now. The first time we went through Cutler, when I moved to town, I came to Bucher. My kids have all been to Bucher, so I didn't know the other school as much until I got into this process. And again, you go into the weeds. I think our sort of staff and our principals and our custodians, whatever, do a great job of sort of making the schools look as good as they can. But in some cases, they're polishing turds, right? They're these things are really just falling apart, crumbling infrastructure, and we have to sort of think about doing that. And when you actually start really touring it with professionals, starting to look about what everything you know, what everything really is and how it's all literally piecemealed together, right? And then like trying to make ADA access ramps to these additions, so they put a ramp through the middle of a classroom, right? And you know, and that's not a solution, right? And again, now you have to have, you know, classes in hallways because the buildings are too small and they're not flexible, right? And really, when you're talking about like why do you want to brag about driving a Jeep down the hallways? So you can actually have students out in the hallways doing breakout work, doing large scale projects. So when you're actually walking to and from the hall, you're not running over one another. I've worked in schools where you have both case scenarios, and trust me, it's really a lot nicer having all that, you know, breakout space. And I've had the luxury of sort of working in a lot of new buildings, and I've seen a lot of great things happen. And, you know, again, I'm currently in Beverly, and, you know, that school is still considered brand new in this community, and that school is drastically outdated and too small, you know? So, you know, trying to learn from all of that and bring it into our community, right, is where you start getting, getting all of this stuff at, right? So it's sort of important to sort of keep that all in mind as you know, you try to get like this whole picture on what makes the most sense, right?
All right, thank you. I know Jen has something to say, and it looks like David has something to say, and then, I think this is a really good conversation, but I do also want to give it the time that it deserves, and I'm aware we have another whole agenda, so let's, you know, be mindful. Jen, go ahead.
Whether we as school committee members like it or not, the project that the town of Hamilton Select Board has proposed to go in where the Winthrop School has become linked with ours.
Become a what?
It is beyond.
Linked with ours.
But we do not. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it is outside of our purview what the town of Hamilton chooses to do.
I'm not disagreeing, but I think
not for us
part
to
of
say.
the frustration is that people in the community don't know what the town of Hamilton is going to do. And is there a way for us to like find out at the very least when they will know that? Like, I would just like to have a date to send to people and say, like, this is out of my purview, but this is what I know.
This is the one time I say I like operating in a silo. It's our job to be concentrating on what the best school is, right? It's not my job. I live in Wenham. For me to actually try and think about what the town of Hamilton's going to do with the availability of their space, like,
and I
couldn't even possibly, you know,
I would recommend
do that.
people
I don't
call
even think they know.
Well,
I
and
think they're looking for the
I
option.
am going to jump in. I'm in a little bit of a challenging position. I was the school committee representative to the Hamilton master planning, which for those of you, I mean, master planning is more of a visionary process. It's not in the weeds and detailed and specific. And so it wasn't spelled out explicitly. However, I will tell you, and that document has not been, we have completed our work, but that document has not yet been approved and put forward by the planning board and the select board. So, you know, but there was a lot of discussion, and those were public meetings. People can watch those meetings. There was a lot of discussion by members of various elected positions in Hamilton about the interest in potentially developing that site. That being said, there weren't a lot of specifics.
I think that's smacking us upside the head,
Right.
unfortunately.
So, but
whether we like it or not.
it is really very much, even though that's why I'm a little uncomfortable, because I felt, you know, there's a hard wall there. It's not,
Yeah, that's why I'm
it's
just
not in our
asking
purview
if
to
we
say what
could
the town
ask
of
for a
Hamilton
date.
chooses to do.
There's plenty of lobbying going on associated with that site. That is an accurate statement. Where that ends, who knows?
I'm sorry, David, go ahead.
Yeah, two things to Trent. Did you have a motion that you wanted to make about?
I have two motions, yes.
About the questionnaire and the survey? And secondly, is there something that you would recommend from your experience in regards to fixing up the governance issues that you identified?
I think at this point in time, My guiding principle here is I want to make sure that we secure some state funding. I don't know what that looks like because that's up to the voters. I think identifying what the voters are interested in supporting is key. And so I have two motions. I'll do away with the suspense. The first is to contract with a professional polling company, and then the second is to delay the submission to the MSBA until we get that information.
One at a time, maybe.
Yeah, do one at a
Before we do that, only in the interest of having all the information and the fact that we have a meeting next week.
We're voting next week.
Can we table the vote on hiring a professional polling company until we know how much it costs? Like, I'm asking 1 week.
So, okay, so nobody's actually made a motion, we're just discussing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I
and
mean,
this is, no, this is, so, because I'm going to ask a question related to this. Eric, I think that what you said was that, you tell me if I'm wrong, was that one of the things that the MSBA would listen to is if the committee wanted time or information about a specific area. Of
course.
And I'm not agreeing or disagreeing, I'm just making clarifying question. It sounds like could the specific area be about, because part of the feasibility process was community input. So could it be that we want to just check in on community input? Is that, like, does it need to be?
To the MSBA?
Yeah, like, in other words, does it need to be about the building, or
I
can it
think-
be that, like, as part of this process, we are curious about, we did all these things for community input, we did the
I think it's
forums.
appropriate to do that. I think it's 100% appropriate. to do
So, that being said, so I guess, Trent, I guess I don't want to, but I'm wondering if what you kind of were all saying, is it a motion that occurs today, or is it a motion
That occurs next week.
to look, to put it on for next week, is the question?
Well, I
Like-
think that if we go forward and submit to the MSBA the option that's on the table right now, it's a gamble. And so I think
We haven't
that.
voted on it.
Oh, I know, but if we're
No,
voting on it.
I understand that. I think I was actually, I guess, I think, I'll just be honest with you, as you started speaking, I thought, oh, next week when we get to this voting item, he's going to make this motion. So I was wondering, is by making it now, then I hear people's concern about, well, I don't know how much that, like, I just don't, I'm looking for you for like what your timeline vision is, like you're looking for a vote tonight in anticipation that, because it doesn't seem like we would have that information by next Thursday.
No, I think that we just need to make sure that we get the plan is to collect the information that's going to guide what gets submitted to the MSBA before we submit to the MSBA. And so, to my mind,
You're looking to make the motion and take a vote on it tonight.
I think that if there's any plan to vote on the MSBA option next week, there's no way we're going to have the requisite
No, it really was
information.
just a clarifying question, just to make sure that I understood what you were looking at. I know you haven't actually made a motion yet, so
Your motion was to delay the vote.
Well, I think it would need to.
Yeah, you'd
right?
have-
I think
you'd-
that
you'd have to.
if A
Right.
passes, B would then go into effect.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Right, and so my only question would be then for Eric,
yeah.
right? We would probably just get pushed back, say, a month, right, with the MSBA, or 2 months.
Or 2 months.
To the
I
27th,
think
I believe.
it's 2 months. I think they're 2-month cycles.
But you don't think it would be in the same way, I really agree that we should, start counting our chickens a little. I also don't want to make, like, we are in the process and we have the rate, which I don't think it would slow us down, but I don't,
The concern, I have
I
two,
mean, it'll slow us down.
It'll
obviously,
it'll
but,
definitely
like,
slow you down.
Right,
but I
I-
think it's a worthy caution
I have
step.
2 concerns, though. One is, does the delay push us so that we're not looking at an April vote, but we're looking at a
Right, I guess that would be.
October vote, or a fall vote, which is fine, but it's just a question. And then, second is, does the delay jeopardize us with the MSBA, which I think is a bigger question.
I I don't believe it does. I had called them today specifically to say, what happens if, given the tenor of, the community. So they were actually very good at saying, we want your project to succeed. We want you to feel comfortable pushing something forward to the MSBA, which in turn makes everything else smoother down the road. So they're on board. I think it pushes us out maybe a couple months. It depends on how long it takes to get somebody on board, get the surveys done, get the information back. So that's a timing thing. I don't know if we would be beyond the town meeting in April, but we do have the ability to request a special town meeting in the summer or the fall. It depends. It's whatever the town want to do, but we do have the ability to request a special town meeting as the school committee.
All right. In the interest of time, we're not discussing a motion, so I'm maybe just ask if somebody has a motion so that we could be actually discussing a motion.
Sure. I move that the Hamilton Wenham School Committee contracts with a professional survey or polling company to determine the will of the voters around the school building project.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
Second by Amy Kumberger.
For clarification.
I want to make, I think the hesitation was not about the
Right.
spirit. It was more about to make sure that the wording, I think, I don't want to speak for the committee,
Sure.
but that was
I'm
what I was.
happy to editorialize.
That was the go ahead.
So I'm, in your thought process, right, are you thinking that we should be sort of saying, here's the proposed scenario, and that's what we should be polling directly? Or
I think that
do
we
you
should
wanna open the floodgates?
I think that we should be asking people, like, if the goal is to determine what people are willing to support, I think we need to put the options on the table.
What
committee,
options?
The options that the committee considered on Monday.
Okay. So not going back to
No,
the
no,
beginning.
no. I think that, like I said, there's been a tremendous amount of work that's done. I don't want to, dishonor that in any way. I do think that if we pose to people a yes or no vote, we lose information, right? Anytime you make something binary, all of the continuous information is gone. For us to get the best idea of what is going to be supported, I think we put those options in front of people and see what happens. Similar to the way that you all did in the survey.
I'll tell you what my fear, and actually, you know what, I don't want to take over this conversation, but I'll tell you what my fear is in that. And I know I'm not going to look over there because they're not going to be happy with this. By giving the option of the lesser money, smaller vote, the smaller school, it doesn't solve all the district problems. In fact, it solves very few of the district problems. At which point you're taking on still a very large, right? It would be currently estimated $106 million project for something that only solves at best 30% of the current district problems with the elementary school, right? So the reason I'm sort of putting that out there, right, and this is sort of some of the conversation that's getting lost in the diligence that's happening with this, the building committee, right, is the fact that, like, I mean, I sort of gave the scenario the other day. If the town won Mega Millions and we had $1 billion, is rebuilding all 3 elementary schools the way they exist still the best for the town? If money was not, you take money off the table, and I can honestly say I do not believe rebuilding as we are is the best thing for the town. Right? I have a multitude of reasons why, right? So I get nervous, not saying yes or no, but my hesitation comes from I am very aware of this project, right? And this is sort of falls into my general warehouse of, what I do for a living, what I've studied, for all these years. And, I have my trepidations in looking at all of this information myself. So when all of a sudden you start opening that up to people who aren't as privy to as much information as that, can then sort of muddy that.
Can I make a
But
suggestion?
I would say, can I just add, the survey is a survey. It's not going to direct how we vote, right? I mean,
Well, I
it's
think it is.
information.
It's a
It's
lot of it.
information
It
that
will
we will
influence.
have, but say everybody wanted the school and I didn't want it, I would still vote how I
Right,
wanted.
but
So I'm just saying, it's a survey, we're getting information. It's
Yeah.
not going to
Correct,
direct.
but we
it.
don't want to offer something that can't
Then it will give us
happen.
information of how people might vote
Right.
at town meeting.
So,
I just think
Right.
we can shape if we can shape the survey.
right, I
Well, you don't-
I wanted.
would say don't shape the survey.
Yeah.
Give every school committee member the opportunity to include their, an essay, if you will, on their view to go with it, so that
No.
you have the divergent views.
No, I mean, the school committee needs to, we can't have individual, like, we can't write individual, that's not how the school committee works. We have to, like,
Well,
It's a
I think
committee.
some of these questions or comments are about the design of the survey. So my
The survey
point
should
of
be-
clarification I was gonna ask about your motion is, I feel like it needs to be more specific about who is designing the survey, what it says, because we wanna make sure people have the
Sure.
correct information when they're making these decisions.
right. That's my concern is, and I'll use this as an example because it's off the table, but like, in my heart of hearts, I really thought Iron Rail was the perfect place. I really did. I really thought that. And I was very sad when determination was that was not the right place for a new school. It wouldn't be right to put Iron Rail on a survey to say, do you think Iron Rail is a great place? Because lots of people probably would, I'm making that up, I have no idea whether other people felt that way or not, but somebody else might think, oh yeah, that's a great idea, but it's not feasible. So we don't want to give people options. We want to be really sure that we're giving people options of things that are real.
Yeah, I wonder.
And
if
we
that-
don't want to, like, that's really important. We don't want,
Sorry, I don't, I'm trying.
no, I'm just being, I think we're all on the same page. I think we just want to be,
Yeah, but maybe this is a
thoughtful about-
question for the pros, right?
Yeah, I think that, a different approach to this would be having a first motion where we charge the school building committee to produce data on the 5 options that were considered and the pluses and minuses as they saw them at the time.
that exists.
Yeah,
That
that
already exists, yeah.
Okay. Is it, is it like so complete that you would put that in front of
Yeah,
the
you saw it
voters
tonight.
It
in this?
already did.
It's on the
Yeah,
website.
it's on the website.
Okay. No, I've seen the one that's on the website. It's just, you were just expressing that there wasn't the information on the pros and cons.
Right, well, I mean, again, great, I didn't want to sort of say that to sound negative, but yeah, people just sort of don't understand what they're looking at.
Yeah,
Right?
it's complicated.
And again, so
yeah.
that's why I try to sort of, again, I've said it many times, kind of be the lightning rod. I'm the elected school committee member here, right? That's my job to be pushing that information out to that's what I see my role as, right? And again, it's sort of the idea of, having subcommittees to then go to committees is to actually have people going in, doing the deep dives, right? I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but, the idea of going in, doing those deep dives, doing that, having those, long, tedious conversations going over all this, with Dana, I would have bet my house that this new school was going to be at Iron Rail, right? Excuse me. And, but like you go through there, even I filled out those, we started with what, 15, 16 at first and
14.
14, right? And you went through and you voted for everything. Does this meet this? Where does this meet this requirement? And you do get lost in it pretty darn easily. And even knowing what I'm looking at, it got confusing at times. I have to imagine, as educated as our populace is, that their eyes just start blurring when they look at that at some point, right? So like the information has been there all along, right? The information is there. It's a transparent process. However, if you're not, and again, don't mean this in a derogatory term, but like if it's not being explained to you and what it means, then it's not really doing a good job of giving the information that you're looking for.
So I'm going to just, because I really am mindful that we do have a lot of other things on our agenda, and I'm sorry you're all going to have a late night, and I already told David Polito, I told him I ate a big dinner at 4:45 because I knew, but...
Patriots pick Drake May, so we have nothing to go home to.
If I may, just, so I'm not sure that right now we're going to be able to design a specific survey in this group right now. I'm not sure that we're going to be able to do that accurately. Does that?
Do we need to design it, or can we task?
I know that that's not what the motion says. The motion doesn't say that, and that was my point, is the motion doesn't say that. I guess I want to sort of find a way to move forward, but also, I don't know if that looks like voting on whether or not to create a survey and having an agenda item next week that says this is a proposed method to get to that survey. Right. I don't know. I'm just putting that forward because I don't know that, and if you disagree, please let me know. I don't know that we're going to just sitting around here come up with the best possible survey.
No.
Right. So
possibly the motion be should to, between now and the next meeting, to solicit proposals from...
Right. I mean, the motion was just it was not specific. It was to contract with a polling company to determine the will of the voters. Mm-hmm. Which I think is pretty general. So, I mean, it does say that we're going to do it by contracting with a polling company, not that we're going to, so it is a little bit specific. So I don't know. Jen, you've been very patient.
Thank you. So my concern with putting, for example, both Cutler and Winthrop on a survey as separate schools, that's not an option for us.
Right. That's what I was trying to say. We don't want to put things that are not an option.
So, right, it's either Cutler or a combined school.
Or
the
nothing.
MSBA is not going to give us permission to do Cutler and Winthrop with our current setup.
Oh, we could do whatever we want.
But
they're not going to pay for
They
it.
won't pay for
They're not going to pay
This is
for it.
whether or not we're going to get money back from the
So,
state.
my problem with putting Cutler and Winthrop as separate schools is that there is no way for us to know when we're going to get approved, because we are going to have to go back to the MSBA most likely, how long that approval will take and how much it will cost.
Jen, if I might interrupt, I'm not sure, but I don't want to speak for you. I don't think Trent was trying to say I think the options would be
The 5 from
do
Monday.
nothing, renovate, build a new Cutler school with the Cutler population, or the combined school, correct?
Whatever
Right?
the four options.
That's
Yeah.
5, yeah.
But I mean, I just don't think we can put a new Winthrop school on a survey. We don't know enough information.
But I don't think-
He wasn't saying that.
I don't think we were saying, that's what I'm trying to say, is I don't think a new Winthrop school, and I do appreciate what Jen is saying, because I've gotten much feedback from people, mostly not in emails, but in public forums, where people say, well, it's fine, we'll just build Cutler and then we'll build Winthrop afterwards. And that's very specifically not something that the state has offered us. Like, that is not going to happen. The state has not offered us to build Winthrop. I do understand why you're saying that, because that is sort of in the narrative, in the wind.
Yeah.
That-
I mean, it's one thing to say, build Cutler at $112 million or build a combined school at $150 million, but we can't say we can't say accurately, build Cutler at 112 and then in 5 to 7 years, because we have no idea what the timeline is, we're going to build Winthrop and we have no idea what it's going to cost.
Right. But I don't want to say, so we're not going to figure out what is actually on the survey, but I don't think that was what was being suggested.
So, I mean, to help sum this up, right, welcome to our life for the past, year, right? There's no answer to this problem. It is a very, very complex problem that even with the, decent amount of work that was put into it and options that we have, there's nothing that that is perfect. There's no perfect answer. It's just sort of trying to figure out what makes the most sense, right? And I think it does make the most sense to make sure if we're doing all this work and putting all this time and money into it, that it is going to pass.
Yeah,
So
no,
we're not. So at least we don't look like Ipswich.
I do. I will say. I will say my 2 cents is I do think it would be important to include the information for the public that the recommended option by the school building committee is this, because the work that you guys have done. I mean, in other words, you've been deeply steeped in this, in the minutia of this.
In a very related way. It's funny that it's been in the back of my mind, and I've never really sort of verbalized it before, but I've actually wondered if we should have been hiring a marketing team the whole time to help push. Let me finish my sentence, please.
David,
Help
David,
explain
David,
process.
over here. Talk to us, please.
Right? To help explain the process of everything that's going on, so that stuff that isn't, that isn't clear can at least be clear, so the conversation
Okay.
be more on.
So I'm going to just interrupt because I think we're outside the bounds of the motion right now, which is.
I do too, but
And I think the motion has been made and seconded, and the motion that I have on the table is, I move to contract with a polling company to determine the will of the voters on the school building project. Does that seem accurate?
Yes.
It's up to the polling company to interpret that.
Yeah, can we make an amendment to the motion, or no?
Sure. I mean, you can make one. I don't know whether it'll get seconded. Go ahead.
I'd like to amend the motion to move to allow the school building committee to work with an outside vendor to create a poll.
Second.
Okay, so the motion, the amendment is to keep the wording of the motion, which is to contract a polling company to determine the will of the voters on the school building process, and to allow the school building committee to work with an outside vendor. Is that correct?
Yeah. no,
And
that-
someone
that makes
seconded
sense.
that, I think?
Trying to-
Okay.
Work with the chosen vendor, maybe?
I think what she's saying, and I don't, is that
It's the
push the work back to the.
To the
sub-
school building.
So
Does the
it's
school
not-
committee?
It's not at us.
I wasn't clear on who the survey would be coming from, like who the work would be coming from. And I think the school building committee is the appropriate body,
I agree.
not us.
Does it?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, I don't, hold on, I'm still into my Robert's Rules question here, which is that I think that if the person who made the first motion accepts this, then it becomes a friendly amendment and we don't have to debate and
You don't have
discuss
to
it.
vote.
So it becomes automatically part of the main motion, which we are still.
Deep dive into
Correct.
Robert's rules.
Thank
right
you. So we are still within the main motion, which has now been, it was a friendly amendment accepted, that the school building committee would be the one task. We would be asking the school building committee to work with the outside vendor. Is that correct?
That sounds good.
You guys, whew. Okay. Eric, can I ask your feedback on what you're hearing and thinking about the challenges that this conversation is? Or Benny, you look like you have a question.
I think that'd be the school building committee.
Yeah.
I think that second part.
That
of the
second
motion
part would be, yeah.
Pushes it over there.
Eric?
Here's my concern. This evening, I was basically told that I loaded the committee,
Oh, yeah.
and I don't think it's an appropriate task for the school building committee if there are people on this committee who feel the committee's loaded.
I'm just throwing things out there. I'm not making a motion. I mean, is it the kind of thing that we select a couple members, a member or two from this committee? I don't know how it works. I don't know how we find the polling company. I don't know.
We'd have to just hunt it down.
Right. mean, do we want a representative or two from the school committee to work with that vendor? Do we want to task Eric with working with that vendor and bring
can
it
I say-
back to us for approval? Like, what do we want?
I think if the motion is to have the school building committee work with a professional polling company to determine the will of the voters, and if all of us vote yes, and if that passes, then we are saying that we trust the school building committee. That's how I see that vote. And if you don't trust them, then you would probably vote no
Okay,
on them
so I think
working
this-
with this professional
All right,
company.
I think this is good debate around the motion that's on the table. I'm going to just share my personal view on which is that I think Eric's point is a valid one and might make me vote no on this and want to revert to having it be that some other body. So, but I think your point is a good one, that we could vote on this and determine whether we want to put it to the school building committee.
Well, maybe you should vote on the amendment then.
Well, if anyone wants any more discussion on the amendment, we don't have to vote on the amendment because Trent accepted it.
Oh, I see, okay, yeah.
Yep, we don't have to vote on the amendment. So is there any more discussion on the motion at hand? I think Julia made a good point, that it's on the table, and if we voted, it would go to the school building committee. If it were voted down, there's no reason we couldn't have another motion, right?
Mine's more of a question.
That's a slippery slope.
We obviously don't know how much this costs, Vinny, but is this something we would have to send out to bid?
If it's over 50,000, yes.
Over how much? I'm sorry.
50,000.
50?
Take a couple weeks. I don't know how much a poll.
Yeah,
I
I don't know. That's why I was asking.
I
Vinny.
doubt it's going to be that much, but I don't know.
I don't think so either, but I just couldn't remember what the cutoff was.
Be three bids either way.
So, I guess, are we ready to vote? I mean, are we ready to vote? Just to be clear that the motion is sort of two parts now at this point.
Can you read it again?
I move to contract, that the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee contract with, or I guess, now that it's amended, I move we contract with the polling company to determine the will of the voters on the school building project and allow the school building committee to work with that outside vendor.
Thank you.
I second that.
It's already been seconded.
She was just clarifying what it.
I just asked her to read it again, so we're clear on what we're voting on.
Seconded fully.
All right, it looks like we're ready to vote. I feel like I want to say something that I already said, but all right, we can vote, I guess.
Not in love with the language?
I'm not, I personally think I'll
I
just
don't
be
know
frank.
why, but it's something about it that seems off to me.
Well, I personally think I'm going to vote no, but not because I don't want a polling company, because I think that Eric has a really valid point about optics, and I think he might be right, that it might not be best in the hands of the school building committee, even though I'm torn about that.
Would you accept another amendment to the,
We can only, yes, we can only have one more amendment, and then we can't, you only get two on one motion.
okay. Could you read it again? I'm going to give it a shot.
All right. I move that we contract with a polling company to determine the will of the voters on the school building project and to allow the school building committee to work with the outside vendor.
So my amendment would be, I'm not going to try to re-say the whole thing, I'm just going to go for the words, that the school committee impanel an ad hoc committee of the school committee members to work with the outside vendor
Instead of the school building committee?
instead of school building committee.
Second. Second, can I second?
Yeah, I'm just writing, yes, seconded by Amy Coomer. Okay, so now the proposed amendment Everyone is getting quite,
I
You
think
need more
you could
paper.
just vote on the,
On what Trent just said.
correct, right. The proposed amendment is to say that we would get the polling company and the school committee would assemble an ad hoc committee to work with the polling company, correct?
Correct.
We ready to vote on the amendment?
So we're voting on.
All we are voting on is whether we would like to amend the motion to say the school committee will assemble an ad hoc committee rather than saying the school building committee will work with the polling company.
So that was not a friendly amendment, and we will.
There's not, right, this is
Okay.
just an amendment. We're going to vote only on whether, you're not voting on the whole thing, whether you want to do this, you're just voting on amending the motion.
Yep.
Everybody clear on what we're doing?
Yes.
Anybody have any questions?
No.
All right, so, all those in favor of the amendment? Okay, all those opposed? Okay, so that is 6-1, and the amendment passes. Okay, and now we are moving on to the main motion, which is, shall we contract with the polling company to determine the will of the voters and create a school committee? The school committee will assemble an ad hoc committee to do that work with the polling company.
one last clarifying question.
Sure. This is fun.
I'm about to punch myself in the face right now. Would the ad hoc committee then sort of do the diligence, do the work, and then for approval from the bigger committee first, or then run everything and give the results after?
I think the policies say that these are advisory committees, and so everything that they do is advisory to this committee, according to the current
Yeah,
policies.
we'd bring it back here. I mean, in other words, my hope would be, here's the poll, here's the polling company. Like, okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
We do realize this is going to cause another vote after this.
Yeah, who's going to be on it?
Okay. I was going to announce at the end of our meeting how great our meeting times have been, but, okay. All right, is everyone clear on the motion?
That's okay, next week's meeting just got wicked short.
All right, all those in favor? All right, and that is unanimous, and the motion passes. All right, having done that, does anyone have a motion?
I moved to remove myself from the ad hoc committee.
I hate to break it to you.
I'm on both committees. It seems like it would be counterintuitive.
Yeah, Dave, you can't be on it.
I would, well, whatever.
I think you could.
I think you could too. Anyway,
Am
all
I
right,
wrong?
wait,
You'll get to
That's the
review
whole
it.
point of not putting it to the SBC. Why
Yeah.
would you make me?
okay.
My
You will
concern,
get to
David,
review
is
it
if
before
that,
Trust me, I don't want to do the work.
my
Kind of three
concern,
bites at the
David, is that if you're not on it, we lose your expertise.
Yeah, I do too.
We just voted that we didn't want the SBC to be involved, and I feel like
Well,
David
you
is
did,
a
but-
lightning rod.
I mean, I will just say my personal concern was the concern that Eric mentioned, which was more around the direct reports that were on the committee. And as we know, that is not the case with David. He's,
No, that's true.
um,
You truly
I actually
represent.
missed that. Sorry.
No, you represent.
I
the
was saying that
voters.
you are the opposite of a direct report to Eric. So the same conflict doesn't arise with you.
Mhm.
That's how I viewed it also.
That is how I viewed that comment.
Yeah.
Do we have, so are we looking at 2 people?
Doesn't it have to be 3? It's a committee.
I don't believe
I
that
think it
the
could be anything.
committee, the policy stipulates.
Again, it was
Yeah.
just a,
Yeah, no, I think it could be any, I mean, it can't be a 4, because it can't be a,
right.
but. Do we have any nominations?
Nominate Trent. I'm sitting here anyway.
All right, I heard one nomination for Trent. Trent, would you
Second.
accept that nomination?
I accept.
Okay, I'm going to do both at once. Does anyone have another nomination?
Yeah,
I
would-
nominate David Polito. Sorry.
Second.
David Polito, do you accept that nomination?
I accept, sure.
Okay, any other nominations?
I'd volunteer to do it. I've got plenty of survey experience.
David is volunteering himself. All right. Anyone else? Nominations?
Don't we have to get a second on that?
Oh, I don't think we got a second on any of them. I don't think I have.
Did.
Did I? All right, do I have a second on Trent?
Second.
Second on David Polito?
Second.
Okay, second on David Frankel?
Second.
Yes, okay. I'm truly exhausted.
Fair enough.
Okay,
Any discussion? No.
well, no, but we need 2, not 3, right? Unless you guys want to do 3.
What, for the
I thought we were looking for 2 people.
I thought we were looking for 3.
Oh, okay, well, all right then.
We're all set. Good.
So let's do 3.
Okay. Okay, all right.
And vote?
Okay. All those in favor of Trent, David Polito, David Frankel as the ad hoc committee to work with the hypothetical polling company, or the future polling company on this poll? And that is unanimous, and the motion passes. Okay. I hate to ask, but do you have another motion?
No.
Just, did you really? And you just were like, couldn't deal anymore?
I think that we can talk about a delay to the MSBA next week.
I think
Does
that may,
sound
that, right, I
reasonable?
think it may be all related and, yeah. Thing. Okay. Okay. Thank you all for that important conversation and everyone's willingness to stick with it. All right, next up, vote on the 24-25 change in the calendar. Eric?
There are 2 small changes to the calendar that was originally voted. I've gone back to the HWA president, Nick Cristino. He's fine with the changes. It's generally how we work on calendar changes. August 28th is actually the new date. It was the 29th, but we need that day to bring a speaker in for the staff. So similar to what we did this year, we moved the orientation for grades 6 and 9 back to Wednesday, the 28th. And then the graduation date, after a long conversation with all of the superintendents and North Shore Superintendents Roundtable, we've all agreed to settle our graduation date instead of the 7th, which would have been really a week later than just about everybody around here, to bring it to the 31st of May next year. And the rule for the school, for the Mass Department of Education is you can graduate 12 days previous to the original last day of school. In this case, it would be the 17th, and you count back 12 school days, and that puts you on that weekend. So you can graduate Saturday, the 31st, and still be within the requirements of the Department of Ed. It came up in a conversation with all of the superintendents because they were all over the map. There were some on the 31st, some on the 7th, some on the 5th, so everybody's trying to move closer to that 31st date. And because we're on Saturday, we just moved it 1 week earlier. So.
Anybody have any questions, comments? Can we have a motion? David?
So we're moving the 2025 graduation date to the May 31st?
And changing
Yeah,
orientation
you can
day.
just say the update. You
could just,
Okay.
yeah.
updated
I
calendars.
moved at the Hamilton one. I'm sorry, I'm still going over the last update.
Tell me about it.
I'm moved at the Hamilton Regional School Committee approve the updated 2024-2025 calendar as presented.
Second.
Second by Jen Carr. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And that is unanimous, and the motion passes. Okay. Office personnel agreement.
Yay.
Yeah. I don't know who, Eric or David, do you want to speak? I don't know who wants to speak. David?
David.
Yeah, so I don't know if everyone saw their email before we came, or if it was just to us.
I don't know.
That the office personnel did ratify their contract, I believe earlier today. So now it's up to us to vote to approve it and put it into effect beginning July 1.
Okay. Can you start us off with a motion, and then if anyone has any questions?
Yeah, so I vote Hamilton Regional School District, vote to approve the office personnel agreement for 2024 to 2027 as presented in the agenda.
Second.
Second by Amy Kuhnberger. Anyone have questions?
Happy to see it passed.
All right. Very excited about that. Get that done. All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? All right, and it was unanimous, and the motion passes. Nice work.
Yeah, good
Eric,
stuff.
do we have that here to be signed?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So we'll get that signed at the end
Yeah,
of the
right here.
meeting.
And I'll bring him to Nick and have him sign tomorrow.
Fantastic. Okay.
These will be for you guys to sign after.
Fantastic. All right. Next up is the superintendent's summative evidence. To you, Eric.
Thank you. This is the final submission of evidence that comes every year. Did the mid-year earlier in February, and basically you just continue to add to that evidence along through the school year and get the information available to you as you work on the evaluation for the end of the year. All of this evidence is, I'm going to continue to add to it. I'm still doing certain things, still building through the rest of the school year, but this is the kind of the bulk of the things that are designed to align with the goals that I set at the beginning of the school year, and also meet the tenets of the administrator rubric for superintendents that you guys, well, some of you have been familiar with, that you have used in the past. So I just wanted to make sure that you had this on time so that you could have enough time to work through the process of summative evaluation.
Okay.
I have a question on timeline. Do we have the timeline?
That was a great question. I was going to say, I don't think we have the timeline, and I'm not, I think, Eric, you and I have that hopefully on an agenda. We need to do that. I don't think we have a timeline, do we?
For
For the
process?
evaluation, what day it
It's
needs
always
to be
Mother's
done. I
Day.
don't think we've done that yet.
No.
Always working on it
You
on
and I have
Mother's
not.
Day.
Yeah.
Not since last year.
So, yeah, so we do need to do that, and I think it really needs to be, we're in a different situation this year. For the first year since I've been on the committee, is that we didn't have any turnover at the election, and so, we don't have that sort of situation where people are rolling off and we need them to get their evaluation in beforehand. But yes, next meeting, and I probably should have put on this meeting, though frankly, I'm glad didn't. We need to talk about that timeline and when people's evaluations are due. And for those of you, which I think is just Trent, hasn't done this before, the evaluation, we'll have a timeline about when the evaluation is due, and then a separate timeline for who and when the consolidated evaluation will be presented, and then we'll vote on it. But we'll get that timeline. I think we should put that on next agenda. And hopefully we will offer a brief workshop for those of you who want to go to a workshop on how to actually do the evaluation. The evaluation itself is, the first time is a little bit daunting of a process, just like, once you get going, it's fine, but just it's very, very structured in the way that you have to do it.
I just heard that I was going to spend Mother's Day doing it.
Excellent. Perfect.
I always do, but
That's when you have it penciled in on your calendar, Mother's Day.
It's my next free time.
That's, I remember last year doing it on Mother's Day.
Excellent. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about the evidence? I mean, there's obviously a lot there. Take time to go through it and speak to Eric about it, but does anyone have any questions here? Okay. All right.
We'll be discussing this several times throughout the.
The summative evidence?
Yes.
No, are you looking to have a presentation of the evidence? Is that what you're looking for?
Oh, no, I don't need a presentation, but.
Well, last year it was everybody kind of wrote their own, submitted it. Somebody, I think David did it last year, submitted it to one person,
Yes.
compile it all, and then it was presented in June.
Okay,
last
yeah, that's
meeting
fine.
in June.
But certainly at any time, you know, if you have questions about something in the evidence that you want addressed, and even if you want it addressed in a meeting, we can certainly do that if you have something. Okay, North Shore Education Consortium.
So the attached exhibit is all the superintendents in this area are required to be on the board of the North Shore Education Consortium, and the consortium just asks us to make this approved budget for 2025 available to each of our communities for viewing, so you can understand some of the programs they have. It has a really nice breakdown of who's involved in all the schools that are involved in this particular consortium. There are a number across the state, what their mission and core values are. Talks a little bit about their school programs, and they're very specific to specialized educational programs for kids with severe disabilities, kids that need smaller classrooms, and they take in, as you can see, they take in kids from a number, I think we're up to 20 districts now across all of their schools. And this is just their budget breakdown, and they just can ask us to bring it forward so that the school committees can at least see how things are being done. Each member pays a fee to be part of the consortium each year, which gives us a reduction in costs for certain students that we send there. So if we send a student to them, that it may be a $50,000 program, members who are paying annually, we pay $5,000 a year to be a member, would get a reduced rate, let's say $30,000, $35,000 or something. So in the realm of special education, it's helpful to continue to find ways to reduce costs for specialized programs. So budget histories are here, tuition rates are here, so you can see what's happening on a daily rate for specific schools. Each school has a specific type of kid in the school. There's a program specific for kids with higher level autism. There's kids with autism and behavioral connections. There's another school for medical fragile kids. So they really take on students that are really difficult for us to keep in our regular school buildings. They just need specialized attention, specialized care, etc. So this is just a breakdown. They want us to share it every year, and I just wanted everybody to be able to take a look at it and see how they're running. They actually do a really good service. They're working with us right now, all the groups, to be able to look at a way to condense busing for transportation out of districts that are really a high cost for a lot of districts, millions of dollars in many cases. We're working with all of the 20 districts and the NEC to try to figure out a way to kind of group transport. So if we got 3 kids in 3 connecting towns going to the same place, we can, instead of everybody paying for their own transportation at $300 a day, they would combine it and reduce the rate. So they're really working with us to help reduce costs across the board.
Okay. Questions?
I can't remember. Last year, there was a substantial increase in the cost we were paying for this, correct?
There was a shortfall, and each of the communities was reassessed.
Are we going to be reassessed again this year? Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
No, the rates will go up next year. I can say that, the membership rates, they'll probably set those in May. And then generally they go up every few years. They haven't for a couple of years. They've been like $5,000.
What, or tuition rates, membership?
Membership rates, sorry, membership. Tuition rates consistently go up. Every year they slightly go up.
Yeah, but wasn't it like 16% last year?
14%. They did not go 14%, huh?
They did not go 14 last year.
Yeah, they didn't go 14%. They were one of the few schools that didn't go 14%.
Wasn't it that they were, it was that they were allowed to go up to 14%, and so we had to make our budget guess based on the fact that they could potentially go up to 14%.
I couldn't remember, thank you.
Yeah, and then if special projects occur and things like that, the member districts can be assessed fees. Like there's a HVAC project that will be assessed a fee for, just part of being in the consortium and working as part of the consortium.
Yep.
So.
Other questions? Okay. Thank you. Okay. All right, next up, we have the policy subcommittee. It has brought forth an IAQ policy discussion. And so the policy subcommittee is Julia, Jen, and David Frankel is the chair, correct?
Yep, correct.
Okay, so I would like to start this item off
can
with
I-
a motion.
I'd like to table this to a future meeting, because it'll take up, along with what else is left, I think it'll drive us to 10 or beyond. So I thought with what's
Okay,
going
so
on with
I'm
this.
hearing a motion to table
Motion to table.
for a future meeting.
For a future meeting,
Okay.
please.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Amy Kuhnberger.
Can we please just get this done?
Well, this is discussion, so I'm hearing from another policy member that you would not like to table it.
I would not like to table it. I just want to vote on it.
You want to kill it, so, be frank.
If that's the vote, then that's the vote, and you got to live with it.
I absolutely live by the vote of the
So-
committee.
Okay, so right now,
However,
we're discussing whether or not to table,
We have a motion
so-
to
This has been
table.
on policy's doorstep for months.
Mhm.
You know, we have other work that we need to be doing. Can we just one way or the other? Like,
Okay.
we've been putting this off for months.
All right, is there any other discussion?
I just would like to point out that it's 9:30.
I won't table anything else on
I
this agenda.
think that there's a very good possibility that I would not give my, utmost attention to it.
I would say, I was just going to say to you, but I'll say to the whole committee, we, as a policy subcommittee, will not be discussing this until it is voted on by the full school committee.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm happy to table it. I feel bad that I'm split between two members, but
All right.
either way,
Okay.
we can go forward or we can table, but.
Or can we specify the date that we table it to, so it's
Sure.
like, this is when it's happening, because this has been put off
Yeah, I agree.
multiple meetings.
Well, yes, I was, because we have to, after this, we have to vote on the chair. I actually can't say that I will guarantee you that I'll put it on the next meeting.
Right.
So I think you would need to specify that you want to table it until the next meeting,
Yeah.
which I believe it would fit on, so.
Yeah.
Do you want to add that to your tabling?
Sure. The next meeting's next week, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully that won't be as crowded an agenda. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so the motion is to table until this,
May 2nd.
next week's, May 2nd meeting.
Second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? You look like you have something to say.
I'm honestly, just
Okay.
having a hard time keeping
All right,
concentrated now.
All right, so the
Sorry.
motion is to table until next week. All those in favor?
We've
All right,
discussed so
and
much.
that
I'm
is unanimous,
constipated right
and,
now.
okay. Okay. All right. Okay. And that will get on next week's agenda. All right. At this point, the way that this will work next is that we are going to reorganize the committee because we've had an election and we actually don't have new members, but we have newly elected members starting a new term, and we're starting a new term. At this point, I will turn the gavel over to Mr. Tracy. He will get nominations for the chair, and we'll move forward from there. Gavel away.
Gavel's mine. I don't actually need to use it here, but thank you, everybody. I am currently taking nominations for the chair for the next school committee year.
I nominate Dana Alero.
Second.
Have a second?
Second.
Have seconds all over. Trent, second?
Yep.
Do you accept this nomination?
I would, yes.
Okay. Any discussion?
Other nominations.
Are there other nominations? No other nominations, okay.
Best job.
Let's move to vote. All in favor of moving Dana Lara as the chair for the next school committee year? Looks like it's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion passes. I'm going to hand this back now.
Thank you. I didn't, when I saw the agenda, I didn't really think that was going to be a fun vote. Thank you all. At this point, I would like to take nominations for the vice chair. Do I have any nominations?
I nominate Amy Coomber for the vice chair.
Amy, would you accept that nomination?
I accept.
Are there, oh, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jen Carr. Are there other nominations for vice chair? Okay, hearing none. Is there any discussion?
Go Amy.
All right, all those in favor? That is unanimous and the motion passes. Congratulations, Amy. All right. Next up, so we need a secretary and warrant signer, David, I will just say that David very graciously volunteered to be secretary and was pretty specific that it was to get us through till the election, I think. But I don't want to
Maybe
say.
did as much as I thought I would.
Doing a great job.
And if you decide you'd like me to continue, I would accept the nomination. And I'd probably remember I was the secretary.
So I was really just trying to put an opening in case anyone is particularly
Anyone else is
interested
welcome
or willing
to
to
it. It's
be.
a wonderful opportunity.
I nominate David Polito as our
Second.
secretary.
Yes, I actually don't hate it, so I do accept the nomination.
All right, I heard a second, and I heard you accepting. Are there any other nominations for other people for secretary? Hearing none. All those in favor of Secretary David Polito?
I appreciate your.
Wait a minute, you guys actually have to vote. All those in favor?
Everybody's tied.
All right, that is unanimous and the motion passes.
14-0, I win. That's right.
Next, I need a nomination for warrant signer. Does anyone have a nomination?
I would like to be the warrant signer. I know that you have been the warrant signer, David, for a while. I just found that I really liked coming into the office and seeing what was going on and actually seeing the operations, and I really enjoyed it, and I felt like it kept me really connected. I'm willing to, entertain it
So,
if you're still, I would love the
Right.
nomination, but
I
I'm
don't
just
know if you'd
putting my
like
name
to
out
do
there.
it.
I
I'd be happy to
nominate
nominate you.
Julia Campbell as warrant signer.
I just didn't want
Second.
to, really loved it. I didn't want to take it away from him.
No, at all. I've enjoyed it, but I'm happy.
So I
if you
will
like
say
doing it,
the good
please.
thing, which I know we're in the middle of it, but I will say the good thing about warrant signer is we do need a warrant signer. We also need a backup. I'll just be fully transparent that because we've most often asked a newcomer to do it, I actually already asked Trent if he would be willing to do it, but what is good about this is that we do need a backup, and I'll actually, just get ahead of ourselves, we'll actually also need a vote that anyone could sign a warrant. We don't ever want to be in a situation where
Nobody's available.
like nobody's available to sign. We actually,
Well, it's typically at 3 o'clock on a Wednesday, so I'm happy to be back
right,
up.
it is definitely an
event.
availability issue, like you definitely have to
It's more
be
that sort of
available.
practical logistics thing.
So I'm sorry, I derailed myself. So Julia got nominated and seconded, and she accepted, right? Yes,
We didn't vote yet.
okay. All right, all those in favor? That is unanimous, and the motion passes. And then do we want to, do I have nominations for the, I guess, I don't know if it's not an official position, but we really do need to have a backup. We can be
I nominate Trent Honda as our backup warrant signer.
excellent.
Second.
Trent, is that something time-wise?
Accept.
Yeah, you're available to do that?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we can take a vote first. Is everybody okay with that? All in favor? And the motion passes. All the backup really means is that, Julia, if you know you're not going to be there, that Trent is the person you call. And then it gets done. I do want to take, if someone is willing to make a motion that we could all sign in case, that's a good thing to have on the books. David? Oh, no. Who's our secretary? I forgot.
David.
It
You
is
won.
David, yes. Can you make a motion about all of us being able to sign the warrant?
Sure, I move that the Hamilton Wenham School Committee allow all
Current.
committee members to sign warrants in an as-needed basis.
Second.
Ooh, second by Jen Carr. All right, questions on that? All those in favor? And the motion passes, and that is an important one, thank you. And I did want to just say, it sounds like David Frankel is available, so maybe that's a good chain of command, right? That, like, you're
Yeah.
just right there.
Right, we'll not let it go unsigned.
Right. It's good to know who is, I also am often available, but good to know who can be there in a pinch. Okay. Yes?
In that spirit, do we also usually choose a vice secretary in case?
Oh,
the
yeah,
secretary's
we
not-
do. And again, I'm not sure it's really an official position, but it actually comes up quite a bit that we need to have someone who's willing to be the backup secretary, vice secretary.
Assistant secretary?
Assistant, I think that's what it is, assistant secretary. Do I have any nominations? Thank you very much, for assistant secretary.
I'll do it.
All right.
I nominate Jen Carr,
All right.
Jennifer
Second.
Carr, as Assistant Secretary.
All right. Assistant secretary.
Yep.
All
I
right.
get second
Okay. Do we have any discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor? Congratulations, Jen, and thank you very much. All right. And the motion passes. Okay. I think we did it. Next up, Assistant Treasurer update. Vinnie.
So I just have
The
a,
subcommittees. Sorry.
Oh, I thought we weren't going to do
Vinnie.
subcommittees.
No.
Oh, we don't
No, we're doing it
reorganize them?
next week.
We
Yeah.
don't need to reorganize
Doing
them.
You're right, it says that, but I have to.
Supposed to be on next week's.
Yeah, that is I actually told people we were doing it next week. I'm sorry. It is on there. I apologize. That is my error.
Do we need to vote
Just
on
make
it
a
to move
motion?
it?
Uh,
Table it for next week?
I move to table subcommittees and actually liaisons
I
to next
move.
week.
Second.
Move the subcommittee discussion to next week. You can't make a
Sorry.
Second.
Thank you, David. Second by Jen Carr.
Robert's rules.
All right, all in favor? And that's unanimous, and we will do that next week. My apologies on that. Yeah, okay. Okay, Assistant Treasurer update, Vinnie.
so unfortunately, Katie Lavoy, our assistant backup treasurer, has resigned. She found a new job, and this doesn't fit with the kind of every Wednesday demand. Kevin, the district treasurer, and I went through the job posting, posted it on School Spring. We have 3 applicants. Right now, I'm just looking for guidance if anyone wants to be involved in the process. Technically, both treasurers report directly to the school committee, or do you want to continue with our past practice where Kevin and I go through the resumes, interview, and kind of bring our final candidate to you for approval?
Can I ask a question? I actually think, I'm not sure, but I feel like when we hired Katie, that I believe it was Anna, I think she reviewed the resumes. Is that accurate or not?
I don't exactly remember that, but she certainly could have.
I don't remember voting on whether, I wanted to say that I think maybe we did have a school committee member go and review the resume.
I went back and looked at the minutes. You didn't take an official vote on it, but I didn't notice if
We did,
Anna was
we did vote
designated.
on the appointment of her.
On the appointment of her,
Correct.
yes. Yeah.
So I may be wrong about that. I could be wrong. I'm not sure. So your idea would be that you would bring forth the candidate that you, and then we would get a
Correct,
vote
that
on
me
it.
and him kind of
Okay.
interviewed. And
How long do you anticipate that would take?
how long, you said?
Yeah, like
Probably 2 weeks.
Okay.
We could have a candidate.
discussion?
That sounds fine.
How often do we even call the assistant treasurer?
Twice a year.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to just say, though,
You gotta have.
Oh, no, I know
You have
want
to have
but
it.
just so-
I will just say, we had a situation, whenever that was, 3-4 years ago, where our assistant treasurer was critical. Like, when you need them, you need them. So, like, this is, while it
It's
isn't.
important to have it.
Right, while it's not very often, it's really important. It makes me nervous not to have one. We really, so.
I've been on this board so long, I was the assistant treasurer.
Yeah, you definitely.
We were doomed from the start.
Okay, so we'll, does anyone have any, Vinnie sort of asked a question of the committee. If doesn't, not hearing any motions on that, so, okay. So we'll look forward to having that, and I think we did put the resume on, and we voted on
We did put the
yeah.
resume on
Maybe that's
last
just
time.
what I'm remembering. It might be. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, committee reports. Capital Finance.
We were supposed to meet this week. Trent wasn't able to make it, and I was deathly ill, so we did not meet this week. We'll sit down and reschedule a meeting.
When is do you know when the last time you guys met was?
I think I owe minutes for it. Was it March 11th? March 11th?
I have the minutes for it.
You have the minutes. I think it was March 11th.
Okay, so you met in March. You met in March is what I'm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Yep, okay. And,
March 11th.
right, and you anticipate getting that on the books soon?
Soon.
Policy?
Nothing, we're just waiting for me to,
Okay, do you have a scheduled meeting?
no.
No.
No, we have no assignment from this committee.
Yep, great, okay.
If you wish to assign us one, we will have a meeting.
All right. Negotiations, David.
You know, it's on me, and I actually not sure.
I can look it up.
Tuesday.
It's coming right up.
I knew it was. So our next meeting is Tuesday. Obviously, we ratified the office personnel this evening.
Yes, we did.
And I think we're making really good headway, moving pretty quickly with the teachers. So we'll see how Tuesday goes.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm pretty optimistic. So, looking good.
Okay. Mr. Secretary, do you have a report for us? I don't think I actually requested one.
I don't. I
Okay,
think
so
last time I
could-
looked, I was actually just about to look it
Yeah,
up.
well, I was going to say, could I request that you bring one next time?
Sure.
That'd be good.
Make sure it's pretty accurate.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. All right. Eric, back to you.
All right, I'm actually quick and dirty this evening. Last night I had the opportunity to attend the annual National Honor Society ceremony, which is always fun. 34 new students, 2 seniors and 32 juniors were inducted into the group. If you've never been, you got to go. It's really it's a great ceremony where each of the current members has an inductee that they speak about, and they really speak from the heart and speak from their connection with this particular person, either on a team or in theater or in classrooms or just in the community. So really, really fun to kind of listen to the way kids talk about each other and really help to make the connections to the tenets of National Honor Society. So it was a fantastic ceremony. Job well done last night. And it was fun to do something where I didn't have to speak.
I forgot it was last night. I really wanted. I went to Beverly's a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, I got to go to Hamilton.
Yeah,
It really is.
it was good.
Yeah. Okay. Right, is that it?
Yep.
All right. Well, Eric stole what I was going to talk about. I got to go last night. It was
Yeah, that's right.
truly,
Good one.
it was really lovely, and the kids are amazing when you hear them talk about each other and the accomplishments that, it's a really, I don't know whether all National Honor Societies do it that way, but it's so nice to have just the senior talking about the junior member, and it's lovely. So it was really nice.
You know, was that recorded on?
I don't think it was.
I don't remember seeing
So there was someone taking photographs,
Yeah,
but
somebody was
not.
taking pictures.
I don't think. Yeah.
I throw it out there, Eric, that if opportunities like that would be great for us to sort of go and represent, that you can sort of give us a email reminder or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, absolutely.
'Cause,
Yep.
like I said, I really meant to, and I hate that it slipped my mind.
Okay. Let's see, what,
Benefits from doing all the work.
Exactly.
Okay, so I guess I wanted to just give some quick updates. Just to let you know that Janelle is going to be reaching out to the select boards in order to get the regional agreement meetings started. So there was a request to wait until after the election because there was some turnover. So that's exciting. She has agreed to try to wrangle that schedule. Which is relevant to me trying to wrangle the retreat date schedule. Which brings us to our next topic. So I got 5 people said they could do the August 9th. I'm not sure that Eric can do August 9th. And so I don't know whether that's a Friday. Eric?
Is that Saturday?
No, it's a Friday.
Friday.
Okay, it's a Friday. The people I did not hear from were
I could do it.
And me. I can
oh
do it.
my gosh!
There it is.
Great.
August 9th.
Well done.
Wow, okay.
Sorry for not answering you.
No, that's retreat. Oh my gosh. That's
August 9th.
August 9th. Okay, and hours we don't have exactly, but we're looking at probably like a 9 to 1, 9
Yeah.
to,
Yep.
like something
I
like
think that's 9 to 2, I think.
9 to 2.
Yeah, I think we did 9
Something
to
like
2
that.
last year.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think I'm not going to say anything else. I think, except that, so not counting tonight, who wants to take a guess at what our meeting length has been so far for FY '24?
90 minutes?
Yeah, I was going to say 90
Say an
minutes.
hour 45.
You must be a numbers guy.
Dollar.
1 hour, 46 minutes, Vinny.
Vinny
I haven't been
counts.
keeping track.
That's enough.
Spreadsheet in front of him right
All
now.
right. But again, it's not a stated goal anywhere. My dream, though, was to keep it under 2 hours, and so that's kind of exciting.
That's why I contributed 20 to 30 minutes.
Thank you. All right. Does anyone have any questions for me?
I have a quick clarifying question
Yep.
for the group. We just sort of created our subcommittee tonight, so now we have to post when we meet, correct? Yes, because there's three
Three,
Yep.
in our
yeah.
subcommittee. Can we meet remotely?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
we'll talk.
Yep. Yep. And as we've discussed many times, you can have as many scheduling conversations as you want, and you cannot violate open meeting law as long as you're just talking about scheduling. Okay. All right. Topics for future meetings. Anyone?
I just wanted to make sure that we added the MSBA submission date discussion to next week.
Yes. I think it's yes.
Sorry.
It's kind of already. There's an item on there. I'm
There
not
is-
sure
there
it's
is something
framed
on
that
there. Yeah,
exactly
it's-
way, but yes, there is an MSBA
Tonight's
item on
wording
there.
changed to vote.
Yeah. We'll work on that, but regardless, that would be the appropriate place to make a motion, or would be within the bounds of that agenda item regardless. It sounds like you're looking at, specifically, a discussion around delaying the timeline due to the poll.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
We had mentioned at an earlier meeting to discuss next steps on the change to school start times.
True.
Doesn't have to be next meeting, just if we could do it before the set year ends.
Yep, for the school year ends, yeah.
Yeah, because
Okay.
it definitely is going to affect teacher contracts if we decide to change anything.
Yep. Okay, and then, what did Julia there was something Julia said earlier that was like making sure that's on an agenda?
Subcommittee?
Oh.
subcommittees,
It was just
but I
something.
think
yeah,
it's
yeah,
on
yeah, Yep.
That's already
I'll-
there.
That's already there, that's already there. Yep. Okay, anybody have anything else?
Motion to adjourn, if possible.
Do we have a second?
Second.
There we
All right,
go.
is there any discussion? All those in favor? 9:49. That's not even 10 o'clock.